At 6:30. I'm going to call this meeting of the Concord Solar Implementation Task Force to order. We are all members are in the room. We have a quorum, and so I don't have to roll call. Just that's a win. Our first order of business tonight is minutes. We have review and take action. The minutes from November 2nd are not available, so we just gained several minutes of time. So now we're just going to jump to the chair's report, which is me. Been busy. Been a busy 2 weeks. I went to the 2229 task force. It was more of a presentation than an actual hearing. They did open it up, but they did a lot of talking about themselves and what each of their tasks are and what the work streams are, et cetera, et cetera. But I did take an opportunity at the microphone to just express our interest in, connecting with them, joining really with the group who's focused on development of the site, as well as the financial work stream, so that we can just get our order in there with the possibility of both solar and storage. Brian Folds also stepped up on behalf of the Life Plan and mentioned that he'd love to see any kind of dual use going on over there, as well as storage facilities. So there were plenty of voices. Most of the other comments from the public were about taking care of effluents, working in the subterranean, water area, whether there's going to be all kinds of flow off site, and how we're going to protect ourselves from a liability perspective. Things that don't really impact us from the solar perspective. So that was that meeting. I went to the chair's breakfast. At the chair's breakfast, we get reports from every committee. There were only a few that really have that much to do with with what we're doing here. One of which was the pollinator task force, or pollinator committee. I don't know if it's a standing committee or just a task force. They're trying to hook up with a national program, and the national program has an emphasis on trying to get pollinator plantings underneath ground mount solar. So that would be a win for us. So if we can hook up with that, that would be pretty cool.
In fact, the site of the old dump is an extraordinarily suitable one for that.
I'm sure it's brilliant. You just cast some seeds for wildflowers of the appropriate kinds or whatever, and to the bees and the butterflies, and that's fine. So that was a win. There's let's see what else is. I spoke to Tracy Morano from the school board. We haven't had any success, so I'll kind of hold on that until we get to the next update, which is the CCSHS progress update. But I was able to connect with her, and they've expressed some alternate interest, which I sent to Wendy. That is mostly my report for the interval. I've been working on my own to-dos for this committee. I have a report due here in the long-term report area, so you'll get to that later. I consulted a little bit with Charlie on his piece of that. I've consulted with Wendy on some of her work. So I just got my fingers in a lot of pies during the so yeah. Okay.
Any comments on the report?
Sure. I'll take.
Is that all right?
I'll take.
So I thought you did. I thought let everybody know. I thought Dean did a great job with his little presentation or comments.
No, thank you.
I would say that I think we need to be careful not to sort of set expectations around what we want or what we don't want. And you didn't do that. You kept it very open.
Yes.
Brian made comments. We'd really like to have 2 acres or something like this. And I think that we really need to take a serious look at what we really ought to be asking for and about our messaging around it, because it's a significant opportunity. I mean, it strikes me that one way to look at 229 is that it ought to be 100% municipal. That's one way to look at it. One way to look at it in terms of our requirements are that maybe you want to go for several megawatts in there and a big storage area, multiple acres, maybe up to 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think we ought to be thinking this way and not sort of.
You're talking about the old nuclear
I'm
site.
talking about the nuclear side. Yeah, I think we should go large until we're told to go small.
Well, one of the things I threw on the table was, regardless of what they do over there, I'd like to see a policy overlay that says anywhere where they're putting hardscape or they're putting buildings, that those things need to include,
Right.
a section that is solar. So you're putting hardscape, put canopies. You're putting buildings, put roof solar. That's a requirement for developing the site out. And once you get, into the policy mix, then solar follows when anything happens on the site. So that's I think would be a huge win.
I'm wondering if there's a parallel to what the school committee did years ago, reserve some sites for future schools.
I think you're right. I mean, if that's what you're saying, that we want to reserve space. For
Whether we
future
use it initially
expansion
or not
of-
is what I'm saying.
Because this is a once in Concord's life opportunity to get a lot of property right next to the substation. And what's going to happen with power? Everything is going to be electric. Then what? Oh, geez, we built low income we built moderate income housing in there. There's nothing left.
That's my point.
I know. I think it's a good point that reserving for future use or what have you. But this sort of thinking is important. And I think we want to go large because it's
Well, you're our liaison to
yeah.
that
Well,
committee, so.
well, speaking of liaison, the next step for us is to start liaising with the work stream groups. There's a financial work stream group and there's a uses work stream.
Yeah, Gary Kleiman is.
So my take is that we would want to get fired up with the uses work stream group and play that out a little bit, see how that goes before we try to get too cooked up with the financial stuff.
And the other fellow there, I think his name is Feeney, who's on the uses work stream.
Yeah.
He came right up to me after the meeting was kind of breaking and said, whatever happens over there, solar needs to be public program.
And you could even envision, a direct access point between the Forest Ridge and this parcel.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to come all the way down to the road and go up the road?
Well, the infrastructure already exists. It's already there.
Well, I don't know. That may not be the right way to do it. You don't know. I'm just saying that think big, is the.
So I have a question.
To your point.
I have a question on 229, and maybe you can answer that. So I know that part of the goal there is to come up with a recommendation to the select board. So do we buy and do we not? First and foremost.
That's the goal of that task force. Plain and simple.
But so in the uses committee, are they assessing potential uses to sort of weigh in on the value of the pro-con, or are they actually coming up in the uses committee with sort of, here's a prioritized list of recommendations on how we want to use that one?
Well, see that, without diverting our meeting into this, but there was an entire task force that went end to end that Gary Kleiman co-chaired to create a potential uses document. And so that's pretty well done. I don't know how much more
solar's in there. I saw that. Right? I just didn't know what this uses committee was going to do. Is it sort of refreshing and updating that? Just understanding our role and how far it had.
I think Gary described it in the meeting as we're going to try to scratch a little deeper into the work we've already done.
That's helpful.
That's kind of the way he described it.
But he's also broad-based everything. Yeah. Recreation, housing,
of course. And
moderate. Yeah, that's okay. Industrial. But I'm not quite sure that's the way to look at it, but.
Well, I think we need to point out putting solar.
What if we formally propose that in addition to our 20 megawatt charter, we think it's time for the town to reserve land well beyond that, and that opens up the subject. In other words, I don't think we want to accept the 20 megawatt limit, nor do I think the town insists on it.
I think we can have a futures thing in there, right?
We could. I will say that looking at the opportunities for land in the town now, 20 is a very aggressive target as it is. And, even if we were able to capitalize on almost all of the 34 acres, which is not happening, we can probably get half of that 50 to 30 of the 34. Half of it is woodland or reserve for swamp and wetland and that kind of thing. So maybe half of that, you get 15 to 20. And it was all solar. That wouldn't be enough to get us to 20. So it's still, we still have a lot of work to do here to find places.
I don't think we want to limit ourselves
No.
to what amounts to a 5-year look.
I think it's a point well taken. And my comment on that is that we need an architecture that enables us to scale well beyond 20, if need be. And I think the simply scaling to 20 probably gets you well beyond if you were to do the infrastructure. But I think that's the right way to think about it, is we ought to not be doing a 5-year look, or
The town will be there
5
after.
megawatt look.
The town will be there after. None of us will be.
That's
Well,
absolutely
our
true.
goal is to write the plan to get to 20.
Right.
And it might be in 5 years or it might be longer. But
Okay.
move on.
So I kind of want to,
Good.
I
Well, we're doing good on
cut
time, right?
this off. We're doing fine because we didn't have to.
10 minutes. 10 minutes in.
Okay, so I want to transition to how we're trying to help the BD understand their opportunity over there. And Wendy's been working on it, and I've been kind of consulting with her on for modeling. So I'll let her go forth here.
Okay, so I actually might want to try to share a spreadsheet if that's possible.
That's fine.
Okay, but let me just talk a couple of things. One is, before we get into the modeling, I did attend the finance committee's meeting around capital planning. And so one of the things that around putting BD, solar and BD requires a roof. And so I just want to reaffirm for the group that the intention is that BD is going to put funding into the capital plan for roofs in FY25.
Right.
It was not in the plan that was presented the other night, but it's going to be added.
Oh,
So-
did you
Oh, yeah,
follow
we had
up
a
with
separate
somebody?
conversation.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
definitely.
Oh, seriously. So they
Yeah, because it wasn't on
they
the
told
list.
me they were gonna put in for it, and then they didn't put in.
Well, I think it, because Carrie was on vacation. So
Huh.
So it's in
it
there
was,
now.
yeah, it's not there now. It will be in the next iteration.
Okay.
So, we might know
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Just so you know, because, so that's coming. And then, just as a comment, there's more capital that the town needs than we have funding probably for, so there'll be some going down as there always is, but separate topic, but just one fact, that will be for them. Okay, and then in terms of solar modeling, so I was carrying along with the Excel version of the model that Dean presented several weeks, and we talked about months ago now, actually. But then Dean shared that there's an NREL model that does, it's an out-of-the-box sort of web application that does modeling of all kinds of green energy things. So, for BD, we're looking at using that model. And I have to say, the NREL model is very useful. It's easy to use. It puts in a lot of parameters. It will integrate sort of the existing G2 rate that the BD uses. It integrates weather information from that specific longitude, latitude. So it's got some nice bangs and whistles to it. Now, is it everything? I don't know. So I've been trying to work on that model. I've gone through, installed it on 3 different computers. And you might send me back, but that's okay. I got it up, I got it working. But thanks to Dean who gave me that, and then we've sort of done a little back and forth in terms of assumptions. But from our last meeting, we sort of agreed that what we want to try to do is use some of the CMS based parameters in our evaluation of sort of BD or some of those some of the assumptions from BD we would leverage from CMS to leverage for the BD model. So
You're not in
Can you wait-
favor of
can you wait
reinventing
on
the
that
wheel.
wait, two things. So yes, I'll wait on that. But what was your quick question?
Oh, I was just gonna say, what you're telling us is that you're not in favor of reinventing the wheel.
No, I just think there's yeah. So I mean, we started to go down an Excel path, and I met with Laura, and there was an opportunity to sort of expand that model, and it just seems easier to use an existing well-established model that's there. So now we may find that it doesn't have everything that we really want because maybe it doesn't forecast the way we want, but it's a great place to start, and it has It'll have functionality to help support the BD model. It's got different models, by the way. So the one that we used for BD was sort of a commercial based
Right.
company trying to do their own install. So it takes that perspective. When we start looking at the larger projects, that might be, there's a model called the merchant model, which would be more a simulation of what CMLP would want to use and we would use for pricing, things like that. So just lots of functionality. I am not going to go into that model today.
Well, I
What
just want to
wanted
get a
do
question
is
on
get
the
into
table
the-
that you can answer some other time.
Yeah, no.
And it has to do with load.
Okay.
Does, and I want to ask David a question too, do we have, does it allow you to input a load profile that would say this is the way the loads look over time for the BD?
And we might defer that because I don't know.
Well, that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Somebody ought to go figure that out.
The answer is yes.
Okay, well, then
okay.
that's all we need to know.
So there was extensive work done on this
Yeah.
by some organization, I don't know who.
Yeah.
They developed load profiles for a number of different kinds of buildings. A residential building, a commercial building that's open on the weekends, or this or that, all kinds of things. You can select among about 7 or 8, none of which is a fitness center that's open like every day of the week. That runs during these hours. So the default load profile shows very light usage of the building on weekends.
But I'm talking about something maybe a little bit
That's a
different.
load profile.
I want the actual loads, the real loads from BD, the actual
Okay,
numbers.
If you take the monthly loads, it will distribute those into hourly buckets. But it will do it according to the building type that you tell it that you have. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have a monthly bill.
Yeah, the building type is the, right, but I don't think we need to solve this now, but I just think we ought to make sure we're able to deal properly with the load thing, because it has a lot to do with the net metering issue.
It does.
So Dave, let me ask my corollary question of Dave. Dave, you have a meter up there that gives us the single high point of the month, or maybe it goes the single high point of the day each day, but you get the high load and you use that for the demand charge assessment, right?
Yeah, it is a demand meter. It's a monthly demand, so it's the highest demand that the meter sees per month, then it gets reset currently.
Now, can we, because we're trying to make this investment, we're trying to also use it as kind of a case, could we get a meter with more granularity, one of the smart meters installed up there? Is that something that we could do?
Yeah, that's on the plan. The only issue right now is that the commercial meters have not been received yet. They're not due until next month, end of next month.
That's soon enough.
Well, if we could get on the list for a really early meter, then we could start getting reads and start
Is this the one you want?
getting the load data
Is that BD?
that would enable us to figure this out in a proper way. We can guess, right? We can do a lot of guessing,
I get you.
but it would,
Yeah, we could also install a voltage detector up there and get a week's worth of data. And
It's true.
so what I was saying was we could hook up a voltage recorder up there and get a week's worth of data down to, a minute or less if we wanted. And then you could kind of simulate based on the monthly usages, and kind of back into a load profile that way. That's a possibility.
that'd be better than, and then we can wait for the upgraded.
Yeah, because the problem with the smart meter is, we're installing now, but if we're not installing in the area, it might have a difficult time communicating with the next device, depending on where it's located. I have to check it out. So it counts on other meters, right? So if we only have one in that area, it may not work so well. But if we have multiple out there, then great.
Well, then the voltage check thing would be a great tool.
Yeah, we can schedule that and get that hooked up.
So, Dave, can you just say that again? What's the voltage check thing? I know I messed up.
So we have a few different devices, and we would hook it up to the service there, and it would give us volt reading, amp reading, kilowatt hours, the time, the demand, all that stuff. Whatever we asked it to give us, it would give us, and then it puts it out into a report. And we could get the report together for you guys and then get you the monthly usage. And you guys could back into a load profile if you wanted to that way.
Sounds like an elegant workaround.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. So it's one way to look at it.
Didn't mean to derail you on this, but I spent a lot of time
No, I
trying to
didn't.
figure out, with NREL,
Mhm.
how power is generated from the arrays, and then making guesses about how BD was using power to see what the net metering issue was, or what the
Yeah.
potential was. And you just kind of can't figure it out that way.
Yeah.
It's too messy.
Yeah, and I know it can do it, so there's a piece of the model. This model allows you to put a lot of profile information if you want to, or it defaults. But yeah, so
Sorry
I
for
think that's
interrupting.
good. No, that's good. No, it's
The
fine.
trick of this is choosing the right couple of weeks. No,
Because it needs to be represented.
it has to be representative, right? So they're, not over the holiday season, maybe over the holiday, but you get the idea
Right.
that
Oh, yeah.
you're taking a sampling, choose the right sample.
That's right.
Question I guess I have is, how much does the BD usage really vary? It's a very consistent,
It is.
like the building is used in the same way on the same schedule, like every day. So I think we would probably get a pretty consistent number. Right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to go on your guess, right?
No,
No,
you take 2
yeah,
weeks
yeah.
of data, but I don't
Yeah.
think that you need to like pinpoint
Yeah.
two specific.
No,
weeks.
you don't. No,
Yeah.
I'm guessing that with the exception of lighting, that is probably
It's pretty consistent.
very consistent.
Yeah.
And lighting probably doesn't dominate.
Yeah, probably.
Lighting is low. Lighting is light.
Yeah.
It's all LED.
Yeah.
Lighting is very low.
Yeah.
Very low.
So back to the technical question,
Okay, so
which
then
one do you
technical
want me to,
question.
I have this,
Do you have BD one?
I have the SAM BD one. I don't
Yeah,
have-
the Stampede one, that's the one. We can just.
Oh, you're trying to get it up on the screen.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just, for some reason, I'm like share screen.
I have a V one and I think you sent me a
V one. V one's
V1.
good. Yeah. Let's get the 250 in it. Sorry.
You want me
this
to
is
share
my-
that?
While you're working on that, regardless of
I'll do it.
how all this load stuff eventually turns out, we do need something other than our own opinions. So,
Yeah.
what you're gonna provide, Dave, with this sample is gonna be certainly better than,
Mhm. More
Yeah.
something.
What I'll do is I'll put together the usage and demand report for the last 12 months and get that over as a starting point.
So we actually have the usage. We have from all their bills, we have that. Can you go to the assumptions page?
Yeah, let me,
Let me tab it down.
I'm on the assumptions tab. I have to make it bigger. Let me get a
That's the
view.
cash flow.
Yeah.
That's
so
the
Dave,
cash flow.
what
Oh, I don't know how.
Wendy was just saying is
Yeah,
we,
It's weird. It's weird.
we pulled all the data out of the bills,
It's weird.
so,
So that saves me a step.
yeah, that saves you a step.
Just
I'm gonna
make it
try to
little
zoom
bigger.
up
Yeah,
A
that'd
little
be
bit
great.
here to like 300 or something.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that heating water is a major element. If that's correct, then there should be
Okay.
a significant time of day variations.
But
I
It's
doubt
gas
it.
heating.
It's gas
It's all
heating, yeah.
gas heated,
it's not electric
Oh.
heat.
gas boiler.
Okay,
Question
so,
answered.
so what I wanted to do today, we're not gonna go into all the nitty gritties of the model itself and what it does. I want to talk about some of the assumptions that went into this model. And it's sort of segregated by system components, financing, et cetera. So we'll just scroll down this, but this little asterisk in column A just says, this is a metric that aligns with the CMS actual modeling, project. So, Charlie gave us early information around from 2014 on how many panels might be needed at BD.
Well, that's that's kind of definitive upper limit. Yeah,
So that's, okay, so that's a max. Okay, so
yeah, that's right. That's right.
the panels and the, that with the 4050 model, same as CMS, inverter efficiency. This model type is something that's part of this NREL project. So you define the type of model. This tilt and ASIUM, which is related to the solar panels, that's a lift off the CMS solar rooftop panels. So it's just a lift. I don't know if it's right or wrong. Don't barely know what it is.
Azimuth is what,
Azimuth.
what direction to the sun
Oh,
are
all
you
right,
pointed?
okay, all right.
So
So that.
the BD is probably,
Yeah.
I think the BD is more like 200 degrees, but that's
All
okay.
right, so-
It's
so-
settable. It's fine.
Dean put these things in, and then I'm like, I don't know what they mean, so I went back to CMS. The net capacity ratio, 14%, is in CMS, pretty standard. Degradation is consistent with CMS. Now, the PV panel, one of the inputs is what's the cost per watt. And so in CMS, in this particular model version, we've done this a couple times, I put $2.50, and I believe that's consistent. Dave, we can verify all these facts with you later around the CMS model. So that's an input. Now, separate, the model asks for what is the cost per watt of an inverter. So Laura gave me that current one for CMS. Now, I don't know in the models of CMS whether the inverter cost was part of 250 or not.
It's bundled in for
Separate.
250.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll
it's
have to.
not, yeah,
okay,
it's
so-
not.
So my point here is that there's a lot I don't know about this stuff, right? So we're gonna have to revise this, and let's scroll down a little bit further about the other things that are in here. You'll see above, there's a weather file that gets integrated in the model. It's coming from ED's address. The system also integrates the G2 rates that are, Dave, the NREL rates are available through this model. I assume CMLP files them somehow, so they get sucked in.
They probably
I
get
don't-
come in through the Mass DPUC or something and then end up being.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that that's just a variable, the distribution, transmission, the energy. But it may not have things that are special, like our underground surcharge, things like that may not be there. But the core stuff that goes to energy cost is integrated. The next section here, installed cost detail, is a lift out of the CMS model, where what I tried to do is say, okay, in CMS we have these costs. What was the cost per watt? So in the CMS model, there was these 4 categories of larger cost. I converted it into a cost per watt and then multiplied it out for the BD project to say, what would that cost be? Just using the cost per watt, assuming it's right, don't know if it's right, then it derives these dollar amounts. So the CMS project is different. It's got canopy, it's got roof. Would these cost per watts be applicable from the CMS right to BD? I don't know. And that's a big open question. So I think we need, Dave, maybe some more follow-up.
We need to discuss that as a group.
Yeah, no, that's why we're walking through these models, right? So there's a lot I don't understand. This is very technical, but we need, if we're going to be modeling different sites, we need to come up with these metrics so we can very quickly get answers to the cost for these projects. So this is a good illustration of it's probably not right, but we need to refine it and we'll get
They
there.
also age, so if you're projecting out for installation in
Yep.
2 years, you gotta factor in some other costs.
No, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can either use a totally disaggregated pricing for every line item.
Yep.
Or you can use project numbers.
Yeah, so
And well, hold on a second. So the way Belmont did theirs
Mhm.
was with project numbers, and those project numbers tied out pretty well with the NREL project numbers. So the project number is $2.50.
Mhm.
And the only things that were not in the Belmont project number was the cost to create the bid, which is the
Mhm.
sort of the initial design stuff,
Mhm.
and the interconnect.
Yep.
And any engineering associated with
Mhm.
the site.
Yep.
That had to be done for the interconnect.
Yep.
So you wouldn't have engineering, shipping, or
Well,
installation.
but you just said engineering. That
Well,
wasn't part of it.
no, I said,
So,
engineering is a big word.
yeah. okay.
So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that stuff was not in the Belmont model.
Yeah, so let me step back.
And it's
There's
not
a Belmont-
in the NREL model. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
I'm distinguishing the way the NREL
Yeah.
model positions this stuff, says all in price, all in everything. For
The
the project,
250?
project
Okay.
for 250. You get everything. And what you don't get is what the CMLP needs to do
Right,
to dig up whatever has to be dug up and whatever cabling needs to be done to
Yep.
to get the interconnect in there. But it includes the inverter, includes
Mhm.
everything that would basically come up to the edge of the wire that would go out to the town. Now, if I am missing something here, but, you know, say so, but I think that's the way the NREL models work, and that's the way the Belmont models work. That's the way the $2.50 number works.
Has
So-
anybody looked at whether the amount of energy used primarily to heat the water is large enough to be considered a worthwhile opportunity?
So this is what this is all about. We're trying to model it and figure out if.
No,
this
but
is-
I was already told that that was handled by natural gas. And well, therefore it's not in the model.
Well, you can have a model for the building, which had you swapping stuff out and changing things around, but I don't think that's
It's not really
We're
our
trying to
purview
do
It's not
here.
a- Yeah,
we're just
Trying
trying
to
to
help them,
say.
we're trying to help them understand how much it's gonna cost
Yeah.
and how much benefit they're gonna get from the install after the energy starts to get generated.
If we assume that we change the heating of the water to electric, does that,
Phil, I'm just gonna say again, it's off of our,
It's
it's
not
out of
ours.
our,
Yeah.
it's not part of what we're trying to do here.
Right.
Okay? We're not trying to re-engineer the
Somebody
whole
else could
building.
go off and do that.
Yeah.
And they are working on it. kind of
Yes.
stuff.
So let me come back to this model. The idea of this model, I used, there was a Belmont model that we filled in with CMS attributes. In the CMS attributes, there was a 250 panel cost. In addition, there was installation cost. And when I took that additional 650,000 installation cost, that's where these dollar per watt numbers came from. So there were two different sets of costs in that CMS model, right or wrong. I just used
Right,
that
right,
here.
and
Right.
that's, we don't have to do exactly the CMS
No, no,
model.
no.
That was a lot of,
Just
people
bear
who
with
did a
me.
lot of that
I
stuff.
was looking for some data,
No, that's okay.
right? So I'm just saying, so there's two different kinds of costs in
It's
this
okay.
model. We've got the panel and the NREL model breaks out inverter costs. So to your point, if the 250 is an all in and it includes inverter, we need to change that. Like I said earlier, these numbers aren't right.
Yeah, it's fine.
To the bottom.
We'll
of it,
we'll get to the bottom. of that.
But we do
I
wanna,
fully
Yeah.
appreciate what you've done here, Wendy. I
Nope.
think
Yeah.
the question is, the real question is whether or not the 650 can scale. Can you scale it down and that's still a valid number? That's a very.
Which one?
yeah, this is take the
Dave's
650.
numbers, so his numbers for interconnect and all the rest of that cost 650. There was a $250,000 engineering charge for CMS that was part of all the paperwork for CMS. 250,000 for engineering. Are we gonna need $250,000
Well,
for
wait,
engineering?
wait, wait.
No.
What we need to figure out is what is our model to count the right things?
Right, so let me
And
just-
are these the right things? And that's the only question I'm asking. And I'm saying that, well, maybe they aren't.
So I guess let me just suggest this, and Dave, if you're here, I can help figure this out. The NREL model, I'm saying, this application allows us to even go into even finer detail than what these four categories are. In this, I'm just showing you what we modeled in that
Right.
earlier CMS model. So it just appeared to me there's some costs that are CMLP based costs that are these items. And I just try to break it into a metric of dollar per watt so that we could translate it from what was the CMS base into something that's
other
a
site,
BB base
yeah.
for any
Yeah.
kind of base.
Yeah.
But I respect that project is different. It has canopy, it has roof, it's part of a building project, blah, blah, blah. And if I recall, the building project actually made everything solar ready, right? So there might be costs there that.
They gotta
whatever.
work in the building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if we're in the
Pathways
building.
and-
So, but I guess my point is, we need to get to a point where we can get this kind of metric for the CML, for those install cost items. And I'm not saying it's CMLP, it's just we need a metric to get to the install cost. And then we need to clarify what really is the panel cost. If we're gonna use this NREL model,
Yeah.
because
If we're gonna
Does
use
that
any
mean-
model, we need to.
Well, wait,
Yeah.
you need to
Right.
you need to go back a little bit further. You need to figure out what install costs is. What does it mean to have install costs?
that's what
Well,
I
the
mean. So
parts
that's
and fees,
part of
And
it.
you got a piece that's in project cost.
Yep.
And then what else do you have that's called install cost? What else is there? You've got
Well,
you've got install costs baked into 250. Are we having the right discussion here? Is this what
Well,
you
so no,
intended?
but I guess the point
Well,
was,
we don't
but
have-
my point is,
It needs
we
more
need
work.
we need more work and we need some experts to help us delve into what went into the CMS model so we can figure what are the metrics that we want to create And we can look at the CMS model and see if there is a metric that makes sense with Dave and his team's support. Again, looking at this other model, and Dave's looking at the model.
I am.
So we need more work to get in there to do it. I will just also, if we go down here, there's a couple other things in these assumptions. There was a maintenance cost element that was in here, and I changed this from what Dean did. Again, using $1 per watt from the CMS model. CMS had $6 grand, whatever.
Yeah.
I put $1 per watt, applied it to the watts on this project, get 4,000 annually. There's a 2% escalation. I assume that we have debt on this project, 20-year term, 4% interest. I do have the IRA discount at 25.5%. So that appears in the model.
Yeah, if you're using all debt, then you
Yeah.
get 25% IRA discount. If
Yep.
you're using no debt, you get a 30%. You get a
Yeah.
30%, payout. kind of.
Yeah, and I'm just assuming we have to do that. for
This
the
all looks
project,
good.
yeah.
It all looks good. It's just that we need to dig into some of these.
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
these
no, so I guess
definitions.
that's my point. So we did some work. I think the NREL model is really good. It's a good out of the box. We can play with the factors and it spits stuff out. And you know, the underground service charge. What's nice about NREL, if it uses the rates for BD, you do get all the volume-based savings that you're going to get out of it. So it's a good approach.
But
Um,
can we say that yes, it's important to understand what the CMS model does and all that kind of
Yeah.
good stuff. But we're really starting with a fresh page in a sense, aren't we?
I
We have a lot
Yeah.
of good stuff here. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is the topic really what's in the CMS model and how do we export that into? It's really what is the right
message
thing?
is-
What is the right thing to do? That's really
Right.
what we need to
Well, we
figure
want
out.
to get cost metrics that we can use, A for BD, right? But
Right.
also when we do our other projects, we need sort of these metrics that should be transferable from one project to the next.
And
For
consistent.
certain costs here, not everything will be transferable, but I guess the message is,
As you
there's a
go
lot
out-
here, it's a good model, we
Yeah.
need more work.
As you go out to build
Yeah.
a larger thing, like we try to expand over at the landfill.
Yeah.
The cost metrics will probably be very different in
Yeah.
terms of dollars per watt that you can put on the ground. We're just gonna, and
Get the-
where do we go to get, Dave, maybe you can comment on this. How do we find like good local thumbnail numbers for, oh, we're putting a mega and a half over at the landfill. What's the dollars per watt for ground mount on the side of the landfill? You know, how are we gonna ballpark that? That's the real nubs of the problem.
Yeah, we're gonna have more information on that. I'll go through it in the next agenda item, but each site is different and your prices are gonna come back a little differently based on that. But the slow price would be more expensive than, just a standard flat ground mounted thing because there's more engineering in it and there's more construction. So
I agree with that, but there's certain pieces of each installation which, if disaggregated, are really the same. Like a 450 watt panel is a 450 watt panel, whether it's mounted on a ground mount or whether it's an inverter is an inverter. It
Right.
doesn't-
Yeah.
So what we want to be able to model is, okay, what's the incremental for this other kind of site versus that site?
Well,
That's
you
really-
need three numbers. We've always operated on that basis, that you have a number for ground mount, you have a number for rooftop, and you have a number for canopy. We don't need a number for canopy, because we're not really
we're not
messing
really
around with that,
proposing
but
anything. Yeah.
you just need two numbers, and these are extremely common numbers. They're all over the NREL research.
Yeah.
And every
But what we,
venture capitalist knows these
but what
numbers.
we've learned is that the NREL numbers are at least between 30 and 40% lower than what we think
No, but
we would have to pay.
I'm saying the
So they're not
NREL,
useful.
the NREL stuff is instructive in terms of the way it's constructed.
Yes.
Okay,
It's built
the
up
way,
like a
the way
landfill.
we did the stuff for CMS was we went to the VCs and to SDA, and we got the numbers that were the average bid costs that were most recently used. So that's where the 250 came from. And that's where they came from. They came directly from, I don't know what Dave got from SDA, but they came directly from a guy that does these projects.
Okay.
So
I guess,
that's where they come from. They're bid prices, local bid prices.
Okay, so local bid prices are 40% higher than the national average. 40% is really what you're saying.
What I'm saying is the average bid prices are the average bid prices. This is instructive from a model construct point of view, but
But it's
you want to
40%
use,
below bid prices.
you want to use,
Okay.
no, you want to use the bid prices.
Okay.
I don't think you want to go question those. Oh, to get a better deal on this.
well, that's not the.
That's
Well,
not the
that is-
point.
that is- that
We
is
have
the-
to be able to understand what we're doing rather than just throw a number at the wall.
No,
And
wait. We're not, we wouldn't be throwing a number at the wall.
Okay.
We wouldn't, no, we wouldn't.
Okay.
This is the way these models are done. To my knowledge is you have an all-in price per watt. And these projects are bid in a standard way. Projects are all bid, they're just, they bid them.
a contractor figures out what to bid by saying, I want this much profit. And then all these other pieces of what I've got to do, which is my work and my project components are my costs. And so that's what they do. Okay. And we just say, we don't want to understand any of that. All we want to do is just take a top line number and use that as a,
That's
dollars
what
per
we
watt.
want, yes, that's what we want to do.
I think that
You can say I'm wrong, but we ought to have that discussion. If you want to get down into the minutia of this, you're asking for a lot more error than you're gonna get help.
Okay.
You are, so if that's what you want
I
to do,
just
that's
don't-
different than what
Okay.
what I expected.
Okay, I personally, I just think we need to have a common set of terms so that we understand
Right.
what it is we're actually including in what we're calling the thumbnail number and what's not included.
Well, the upper part of this thing is pretty good. If you go back up there. This is all really good stuff. It's 455 watts is what CMS had for a panel, by the way. But inverter efficiency, all these things, I understand pretty well. I don't get the notion of putting the inverter line in there. That's the only
Well-
thing that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, for me, it's just, I was trying to feel, it's a very critical piece of the NREL model.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
the
separate
inverter
panel
is
from
called
inverter.
that,
It's
really.
It's separate, and there's a
Okay.
lot more detail in terms of the cost, maintenance cost, and other pieces that you could bid on, so.
So what we, just going back to the history and where Brian's thing came from, and where the Belmont thing came from, its genesis was in the VC world. And that's where that model that we used that created the stuff for town meeting came from. They created it. It was created in Belmont by a task force of,
Right, and so we,
So
so you can say, well, we ought to go with the NREL thing, but
no, I just think
I'm
that
okay
we're,
with that, but
it
that
just seemed
makes
like,
sense.
for BD, it really helped, because it also integrates all the rates in a way that. and
Right.
uses weather and those other things, so it's a good model for that. And the others, I think it's worth using, it's very defensible if we can get the right metrics to go with it.
Yeah.
So.
all right,
So-
I think
we can wrap
I
this
don't
up.
know that we've beaten this horse
Can you do
completely.
just one quick thing though?
Yeah,
Go
sure.
to the summary, summary, so
Okay.
it just gives you the graphic.
So let me
See.
expand that.
Yeah, so,
I'm good with the whole thing, except
Yeah.
for the lines about installation and all that. If you go down,
yeah, and that's a conversation, like, I don't know what went into the CMS model, it seemed to me that we had two different kinds of costs, of stuff that's in the 250 or not, but let's.
we
I'll
have two
follow
ways
up
of
on that.
looking at it that we're combining.
All right, so all I want to point out here is that one of the things the model does is it does sort of spit out some key metrics, and it does give you your net present value, it gives you the time for payback. Now, again, these numbers may not be right, so these may not be accurate, but this is all out of the box stuff that comes out in here.
And what was
Now,
the total cost of the project?
429.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
And
that's
where
what
does
that-
inflation come in or not
So
come
that's
in?
one of the parameters, that's one of the assumptions, it was
We put
2%.
2% in.
So what's in the net capital cost? What's in there?
That's gonna be
Two
most
fifty
of
times the
this-
capacity?
No, actually, when you look at the cost in the model, they have the panel and the inverter, but there's some other direct costs, and then there's a subset of indirect costs. So, and I don't have the model here.
I do
And we
right
don't
here.
have to.
I don't have to, and I'm not gonna get into it.
Yeah, because we don't need to get.
We don't need to get into it.
Yeah.
But by changing, in a very small way, a very modest entry, you change the bottom line a lot. So so when Wendy ran this one, which is version 1, she came out with $429,000 cost.
So what is the cost if we use 250 times the
This is Excel.
Yeah, this one's on.
250 times the capacity?
Was.
172.
No,
172,000.
Yeah.
430.
okay, so it's exactly 250 times the capacity. Precisely, right?
So it looks like 250
Yeah.
times 172.
So therefore, NREL does to the 250. They recognize, it works out
There you go.
with the 250. There isn't a lot of other stuff in there.
What happens to the wasted energy?
Well, I'm gonna back up
Yeah.
a minute on net capital cost.
I don't think
Net
that's-
capital cost
Net.
took out 25.5%
Right.
That's what I was
We did.
gonna
from,
say.
from the IRA.
Oh,
So that's your net
oh,
capital
so you
cost.
have that
That
in.
is not the total
Right.
capital.
Oh, okay, so that's more of a bottom line thing, then, isn't it?
So
Right, well, you're gonna get that discount,
Would-
so,
we're gonna get the discount,
right,
but the input parameters.
Well, then the numbers are quite different.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's because,
that wasn't a big deal.
I probably need to have a Zoom with the two of you guys just for us to, go through it and
That's okay.
so we all agree.
Well, there's nothing wrong with fighting this out, because it's the only way we're gonna get
Yeah.
something
No,
that,
fine. I'm
that
happy
works.
to,
you know?
we don't need a whole team. We don't need 6 people on this,
Okay.
in this conversation.
The bottom line is you need a defendable
Yeah.
model. that
Right.
has-
That's right,
that
defendable.
has been vetted by multiple parties who would question it and is consistent with every place we go.
Yep.
That's right.
So we don't have to
That's right.
defend it every single time.
That's
Good
right.
point.
And something that we all understand.
Oh, that would be,
That would be helpful.
So, thank you.
Okay,
thank you for the
That's
effort.
about all
Yeah.
it is. Well, we'll keep working.
Yes, okay.
all right.
Is there a lot of fluctuation in load? And is the idea of giving back to either the town or outside the town significant enough that should be included?
The BD is constantly looking at its usage and what it can do to, reduce its overall loads. And whether it has the capital wherewithal to swap out gas boilers to heat water, I don't know. It's just not part of a purview of our.
No, but I'm asking the more basic question is the hourly consumption roughly the same 24 hours a day? I doubt it. And therefore, what do we do with the extra production and how is that figured in? What happens to it?
Well, you can answer part of the question. The load is pretty flat.
Yeah,
Is it?
Yeah.
yeah, you're running.
With the exception of,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
LEDs, it's fairly flat, but Dave will get us this and we'll know.
Right.
We've
Okay.
never really seen the load over 24 hours.
All right. I'm gonna share for 2 seconds, this NREL model and which we'll be working with. I think this is the page I'm supposed to share. So just bear with me. It might be a little small. It's a little small. I don't know if I
Oh,
can make
yeah,
it
these
much
are all
bigger.
the parameters, yeah.
So, right here is where you enter the module cost, and you do not enter 250 per panel, because this is the actual cost of the panel, not the actual all-in cost. If you want it to come out, which I have at the bottom here, to 250 per watt DC, which is what Charlie says is the thumbnail number, you can back into it by putting $1 in here for the panel cost. But then it will take and it will say, well, the balance of system equipment to put a roof mount is going to be, this, and it's going to cost this, and it's going to be this. So what is this model? I've got, oh, I know what I did. This is the B. I put the CMS number in here.
Oh.
Sorry, 172.
It's okay to use this, but you talk about getting all these expert resources to help you figure this out.
Yeah.
That's what the 250 is.
All right.
250 is a lot of expert resources who figured out what a project costs to do all in. So
All right,
that's,
so this is the
That's
size,
the difference.
this is the size and scale, rather. I had that scaled up to see what was CMS. Anyway, back to this. So what it says is that there's other stuff. There's mounts for the roof that are gonna cost 61 grand. There's, some labor that to physically put the stuff in. There's an installer margin and overhead, which is 53 grand. So by the time this is all done, you end up at 250 a watt down at the very bottom down here. That's 250 a watt. But the way they do it, some of the things that Dave calls out separately, which is things like grid interconnection, which they've calculated at 10,000. Okay, for permitting and environmental studies and things like that, 5,000. Engineering and developer overhead, 51 grand. These are things that ended up sort of like outside of the 250 thumbnail that you were talking.
that was the problem that I was calling out. Yeah, we want to have
Yeah.
either it's all in or it's not. So
Yeah. So this breaks out all that stuff if you want it broken out, but you don't just plug 250. You can back into 250 by using such this number. You can always back.
I don't know what you
Now I
plug
know.
into this. I just say if we plugged into the other model, the CMS model, 250. That's
Right.
the way we did that other
Right.
model.
Anyway, so that's that.
Okay.
So
But you know
So you
that.
can
You
see
know
this.
how that other model
I know
works.
exactly how that manipulate that. Okay. All right, we have overdone it on this particular topic. We're gonna go back.
1 minute over. So
Oh, not too bad. All right, so CCX project, progress update. I will give my report and then I'll let Dave jump in. There hasn't been a whole lot of progress here from my perspective. I did speak with Tracy Morano very briefly at the chair breakfast. She said that I had met with the two chairs and the superintendent, and Tracy, I don't know whether they've had further conversations or what. She said that they are interested in possibly pursuing panels on the roof of the building rather than in the drainage basin. That is not a lot of progress, and it actually completely changes what we're thinking of doing.
Yeah.
So,
Probably much more expensive.
I think it would.
Yes.
And I also think it would probably be much less production. So it's a competition of, you get less electricity out of it and it's more expensive to do. So
But you didn't say no to the other piece.
she hasn't said no, but she said, we'd like you to consider, was kind of the way this was expressed to me. So that is pretty much that. I've also communicated with the town engineer about whether or not there would be any impediment to us considering the drainage basin. I haven't gotten anything back from the town engineer yet. I just sent that in yet today. So I'm sort of hoping for possible yes, because the town built a parking structure over a wetland. So if we can't put a few posts in a drainage basin, which is designed, I just don't see.
they set a very dangerous precedent.
Just, so I'm sort of hopeful that he'll go out. It's just a few posts in the drainage basin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did the school committee give any specific reasoning why they didn't seem to be clean about the?
In the first meeting that I had with the three of them, they were just a little skittish about, in effect, committing land on the campus. Like they have all these other, groups who come to them and go, we want to do this here, or we want to do that there, or we want a skate park over here, or we want this over there. And they're like, what? Now they're kind of talking about a track over on that space over there. And they're pretty much demanding that people raise the money completely independently.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have anything in our budget for that, but if you want to come forward with that and have the money, we'll talk to you. So we're
Maybe competing interests on it?
I don't know, that they just seemed a little scared. That's the best I can.
I just didn't know if they offered any particular or more specific.
Well, they also expressed their concern that they're being asked to scratch into the seat cushions looking for revenue anywhere they can find it. And would there be any givebacks? if we were to say, we want to put this on your land, they would get some kind of, now, they aren't willing to put any skin in the game, it didn't sound like, oh, we'll go halvesies with you on the cost or anything like that. But it did sound like they wanted, hey, you're asking for us to use our land. Well, it's not your land, it's actually the town's land. It's actually owned in common with another town, but we own it, not you. So I don't know how we navigate that, but they asked for some consideration. So, but that was not in the 2 weeks since we last met. That was my previous meeting. So
I hope that, and this comment is partially, for Mary, because I'm slow for it. But there isn't much money in solar.
No.
The financials are very poor. And to be giving out money from one part of town to the other part of town to enable the town to do what the town wants to do seems to me to be just over the top.
right.
So why shouldn't any town entity get money if it's going to do solar in its space? So if we want to do solar at the public works, oh well, they should get money. They should get money. Let's transfer some money over there.
Right.
Meanwhile, it's coming out of the ratepayers. So you're taking it out of ratepayer pockets and putting it in another pocket. It simply doesn't.
I agree.
It just doesn't hold water. So I just hope we all kind of, not telling you how to think, but I hope we think this way about this, because we got to stay lean and mean if we're going to get any of this stuff done.
But I'd also say there are a lot more benefits than money
Right.
in some of these equations. And some of it is whether educational benefit or
That's right.
alliance with their goals or helping them achieve things by partnering with them. Doesn't necessarily mean money. It just might mean that we need to help it be sold or worked a little better or integrated in their mission, something in there.
No argument.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think that if all of us could get in a room and wave a magic wand and all of a sudden there were solar arrays either on the roof or in that train station, everybody would be happy.
Right.
But we need exactly.
But we're not there yet.
We're not. And there's a lot of hurdles between here and there.
The other
So-
comment was, well, this is really not for the kids.
Right.
Classrooms are for the kids, textbooks are for the kids, the tracks for the kids, but this isn't for the kids. Well, if this isn't for the kids, what the hell are we doing here?
Right, exactly.
It's all for the kids.
Right.
We're all going to be dead. The kids.
Really brushing the dead thing.
Bill started it.
But I'm serious
No,
about
no,
this point.
but that's what-
This is not, doesn't fit in with education. You brought up the education idea.
Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing up the notion of the air we breathe and the temperature we live in. And that's for kids. That's for the kids.
This is the same thing we do with every client when we talk about LEED. It's like, why would you do it? Why would I pay to be certified? So you can, you integrate the whole subject into your entire culture and carry it forward, because once you have that support, there's no stopping, right? It's a conversation that we just need to.
The
That's
New
right.
York, the New York Times published in the last several days some updated statistical information on deaths due to heat deaths.
Yeah.
They're not only high, but they're going up like crazy. So part of the direct answer is
Come in.
a lot of people are going to die if we don't do something.
Well, this is it. This isn't for us. This is for them. So
Right.
let's get the idea here that we're all in
We
this together.
digress.
Anyway, yeah, we
Sorry.
digress, but
Sorry, we digress, but it's a good thing.
it's fine. But Dave, one of the things that the group of three, I'll call them, wanted was to have a meeting with you, and you were gonna reach out and maybe you could provide an update of how that's.
Yep, so it looks like that's gonna happen the week after Thanksgiving, because people are off next week, so. So that, it seemed like it would work for both chairs, and just waiting to hear back from Lori.
We're gonna make sure Dean's in there, right?
Yeah. I'm just gonna say, I don't want to have to do that meeting and then wait 2 more weeks to have another meeting that I'm involved in. Because it's not clear that we're gonna get really out in front of the full school committee unless somehow we have a proposal for that they can discuss. And I need to be in whatever meeting that is where we decide what it is we want to put in front of the full school committee. So having a meeting with just you guys and then I'm not in, and then I have to have another meeting with the chairs and Lori is excessive. So if you're having a meeting, just include me. I don't want to have, it's been months and we're nowhere.
I've made that clear to them that you want to be involved. So
So, can we talk about what we would come forth with? Because I think there is a way to patch in what it is we want to do with some level of specificity. And you may not like this, but we could take the Cadmus numbers. Cadmus is all we have.
It's what we have.
So
It's a
Cadmus
study.
is good. It's a study. They study stuff. They do it for a living.
Yeah.
So we have Cadmus for the drainage area. We have Cadmus for the roof.
So we have this for both.
So let's just say to the school committee, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is the roof. This is the catch basin area. Let's consider both as a package. That's what I would do at this point. What I would think.
What
She brought it up, so hey,
Yeah.
well, we can put it out there. It doesn't take any
no, that's,
special effort.
I don't
to
have
do.
a problem putting that out there. The question that both of the chairs put to me was, well, if we put it on our agenda, what are we actually talking about? Are we talking about, committing to something? Are we talking about thinking about your dream? What is it we put on the agenda? And I'm happy to just go and give a presentation literally of the Cadmus information. There's nice pictures, there's shading diagrams, there's estimates of how much energy would be generated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm happy to do that just to get the ball rolling with the full school committee itself, to have multiple meetings with the chairs and the super before we ever get in front of them is, to me, we're just spinning our wheels here.
I'm wondering if we could get by, I've seen done a number of times, and separate the approval in two stages. Approval based on early estimates, subject to a further vote when the numbers are solid.
Right now, what I want the school committee to do is to agree to partner with the light plant. Okay, just partner with the light plant to develop this area of the campus. Whether we talk about the roof, whether we talk about the drainage basin, agree to partner. And then we can move forward to, okay, how big is it? What's it gonna cost?
But that's-
So then you have the answer to your question.
What?
That's what we're asking.
Well, do we
Well,
want
what you
But I need to get the school chairs to get that discussion on the agenda.
Yeah,
but you have to go have this. You have to first have this meeting with Dave and
And
the
the chairs.
chairs.
Right.
So you're going to do that week after Thanksgiving.
Right.
And so what are we missing here?
To Dean's point, that he's gonna say, this is what we'd like to have on your
Right.
agenda, and I just wanna have it tabled on the agenda.
Agenda.
I'm not asking you to commit money, anything else. I'm just asking for a commitment of collaboration.
That's right.
That's it.
That's
Well,
what I
don't
need.
we have all the pieces to have that meeting and to have the school committee meeting?
We have everything.
We have
need.
everything.
I don't need to do any more work.
Right. He
Okay.
just has to get them to commit.
The-
To get on the agenda.
I need to literally just put it on the agenda.
The part that
It's
bothers,
not hard.
the part
Yeah,
that bothers me
and
is not
we-
getting on the agenda. That should be an easy thing to do, whether
That's
it
why we're
is or not.
frustrated.
But if I were on the school committee, I would not vote for this until somebody give me a preliminary estimate.
You're not, it's no cost to you. You're on the school committee. The cost to you will be zero. What's the preliminary estimate you need? The cost is zero.
First, I wouldn't believe it.
Okay, well, okay.
But do you agree to at least to listen to us? and
Oh,
work
yeah.
with us?
There
We're
you
not
go.
even there yet. That's what we're just trying to get to.
So you say you have everything you need, but there is the second level question, which is, what do we want you to do from a partnership? What's it mean? We want you to partner. When you agree to partner, what are we asking
We
you
need
to
to
do?
work through the development of a memorandum of
You need to
understanding.
have that
We
list.
need, it's fine.
Okay,
I've
so
got
you
a
have it.
15-page version of it that I've already given them,
Well,
Charlie.
so we have everything we need. All we have to
Exactly.
do.
I have everything I need. I told you that
Okay.
3 sentences ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm fine.
Right.
But I
So
gotta get on the
we're just
agenda.
late. then.
Okay, we're
just
late. It's taking forever. And we've gone 2 weeks and we've had no meeting with the.
So
school
you want to
chairs.
vote?
And now I gotta go 2 more weeks because we have Thanksgiving off and then we can have a meeting. Weeks and months, literally months
So
go
it's
by.
it's a delay
And
issue, only the delay
up to
issue.
here with months.
Yeah.
Your
Yes,
Yes.
months.
delay
Can I
problem.
ask one
Yes.
question?
Okay.
Yes.
So I know we started wanting to talk to the schools because we're concerned about the warrant. And I know Dave will talk about the land.
But at this point, the warrant is off for the school.
So,
The schools
okay,
are not
so-
happening.
So now, so I guess my point is, you want to partner with them, but then it raises the larger question that we are working on. We have multiple things at the high school
Right.
that are on our list.
That's
So
right.
if we're not pushing for the warrant article right now, is that the rush? I mean, we still need to partner with
We're
them.
pushing
We
for a
still
warrant
want-
article. We're gonna try to do a warrant article.
I don't know.
That's something.
I don't know how,
Not for
we're
the
gonna do a
school.
warrant
We're
article.
gonna do a warrant
something.
article. We're
Yeah,
gonna try to
yeah,
do-
no, I know. We can do it in high school.
High school,
That's, I don't.
based on the timing that we are currently facing, is off the table. It's
Yeah,
off the table. How do you put a warrant
Unless
article
we do
for the
feasibility.
CCHS campus when we haven't even talked to the school committee about being in partnership with them?
That will
You
just,
can't.
that'll just defeat our entire committee.
I guess my.
You'll
my
just
only
fall on your
question
face from the
was,
first step.
Unless
So-
you want to do a feasibility.
I would
So-
figure,
so-
figure out the lightest form of warrant article that you could come up with, and I'd take it to the meeting. That's what I'd do.
Well,
You wanna push the agenda
chairs
here, I
won't-
would do that.
The chairs won't put it on the agenda unless they know that's what I'm bringing to the meeting. In other words, I cannot sideswipe them at a meeting and just go, oh, by the way, how about you think about this?
That's not, tell them,
No, but they may just go, I'm not sure we're going.
we haven't tried yet.
I haven't tried, but I haven't had a meeting.
Gotta read the room first.
What about
okay.
the going to the town with in part a statement to explore with the town committee the following?
No, you can't, the school campus is fully controlled by the school committee. It's like a separate government. And you can't sidestep it.
Yeah.
We did the urge vote on the. No, we didn't do it, didn't we? We did the urge vote on the school committee.
Yeah, you urge the school committee to do
We
X.
urged the school committee. to
That's
act because you
adversarial.
can't- Well, because you can't tell them what to do.
That's
Well,
right.
I suppose it was adversarial.
It's
but we got
adversarial.
what we wanted, we got an electrified, we got an electrified middle school.
Yeah.
So there was nothing,
Yeah, but
they didn't agree, they didn't agree to it.
that's right, it's adversarial. You urge them, but you can always do that. You can always be an adversary to them and say, we urge you to put these things here. Okay. I'm just having trouble here. Like, as I said, weeks are going by and nothing happens.
Question is, what can we do to have the influence and power of a vote of the town to help us? What's the least that we have to ask them to vote in order to be able to say, well, the town's told us to do this?
Get a sense of the town, that's one way to use town meeting, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to consider that adversarial, well,
Well,
it's adversarial, but you can do that. That is one way to do a warrant article without, getting it too far into.
I will
the weeds.
continue to try and see what I can, what we can do. But by the time I meet with these people, we will be into an open warrant. The warrant will be open on December 2nd. And it sounds to me like the meeting will occur after the warrant is open. So, or maybe just as the warrant's open. So, we're in a tough spot to get anything on it. Okay,
Once
Unless
we've
we
had,
consider
because that's just a meeting with the chairs, and then I gotta be on there.
once we put a warrant article, and I call it the vague article,
The urge article.
yeah,
Okay.
can it not be amended even as late as the town meeting itself to add the specificity that we will succeed in getting answered afterwards, since it won't be by December
It's a
2nd?
it's a scope thing that the moderator is able to judge for, and she sometimes bounce it off on the town council, but it's,
can't-
you can't change the
Can't
scope
change
of
it
what you're doing.
substantially at all.
You can probably have
Right.
blanks, you can have
Yeah.
blanks in there and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it has. to-
Because
It has to be in
I'm
certain-
throwing out, can we do in 2 stages what we can't do in 1 stage?
It is,
Well, in some ways, it was a stretch to think we're gonna have, a hugely specific
right,
town meeting article to begin with. So, I mean, I'm not,
I'm not giving up
I'll
on
be
the
very
lake.
honest.
I'm not giving up on the lake.
I didn't see it happening.
Yes, the select board member is recognized.
Mary Hart from 16 Concord Green, I'm not speaking for myself. I need to remind you that any article that you propose has to go to the select board, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of unrealistic to think that the select board would sponsor an article that's urging the school committee.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment.
That could be, that's true.
So,
Fair enough. Okay,
But could the selectmen support a warrant article for a feasibility study with CCFL? Or the region?
Well, then you have to wait until June to do the feasibility study, because that's when the money
Right.
comes through and all that. That's a non-starter.
Let's move on.
Anything we-
one more thing, Dean,
Sure.
just one more thing.
Yes.
You and I spoke about this. I'm gonna defend this, the school committees are not in here, I can't believe I'm doing it. They are under pressure to find new revenue opportunities, they are. And I'm telling you that any money they get, if we were to lease that land from them, would go back to the town, because it would reduce their expenses. So it's a loop, okay? And we also have to recognize that we can't act alone with them. Carlisle owns that land. So we have to deal with them.
Yeah.
And if there's any way, and I know Charlie that the finances are tight, if there's any way that we could offer them some kind of a lease payment, maybe that would bring them to the table. Just
You mean revenue by taking it from one part of town to the other part of town is revenue? I guess that's,
It is.
And-
Sort of
but
revenue, but-
the other Carlisle shares.
To help Carlisle.
Carlisle shares. Remember, Carlisle's at the table here because they own that land.
so,
So. we
so
can't-
so let's look at it from a different perspective. Revenue out of the same pocket, which is the taxpayer and the ratepayer, they only have one pocket and one bank account. So they pay some amount in electric rates and they pay some amount in taxes. It's just gonna go up, but the additional money is gonna flow to the school. So you're basically finding a way to get more money out of the taxpayer pocket and have it go to the school.
you have the
And not
rate-
have it
having the
labeled.
ratepayers pay the
But
school
in
expenses.
school, we have to trust that the school therefore will reduce their ask to the town for their subsequent operating. Because they've got, either they will reduce their spending or there's an opportunity cost there. What is the high school budget? 40 million?
Right.
It'll be reduced by whatever the lease amount is. I mean, they're not gonna go on vacation. They're
No.
gonna use it to spend, to fund their operating expenses. Right?
Right,
You'll
but
know what this is all about when you see the spreadsheet, and how little money there is in there.
it's-
So-
Well, I'm just saying, it's a way to get them to the table, and that's all I'm gonna say.
The payback periods on solar are quite lengthy, and to add an additional expense to the thing just means that they stretch even further. But I mean, it can be done. It can be done.
And it also depends whether it turns out to be a token amount, in which case who cares? Or a substantial amount in which everybody cares.
Shares. Right? So,
Collaboration.
all right, now let's try to get to our next agenda item, which is the land.
Let's wrap this one up, though. The
Okay.
big item here, I hated to, sorry, I prolonged the thing, but the issue is, it's taking too long.
Yes.
We have all the pieces.
We do have a.
We just can't get a simple meeting with some people put together.
That's right.
And I think, Dave, that's kind of on you. I think that's the way we concluded this, that maybe it's on them too, but this is not good. That we have all these people working their cans off to make this happen, and several other people somehow can't manage to put a little meeting together with a month of lead time. It's been a month, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's been,
So,
I went to
you
the,
know.
I went to the school committee and made public comments, I think, in early October. It was it was early October. It might have been in late September. I went to the school committee And I just use a public comment moment to say, hey, we're a cool task force. We're interested. And then I sent follow-up information. I eventually had a meeting with the gang of three. It's been months.
So our ability to do solar is a matter at this point. The blocker is the time to put a meeting together. So let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
Would they refuse a request for a special meeting just for this important issue?
They're
So
not
why-
gonna.
well,
no.
let's take another cut at this. Why do we have to wait until, is it the week after Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Dave, why do we have to wait till the week after Thanksgiving? Why can't we say, look, some new information is on the table here. This is kind of urgent in terms of the fact that we're behind where we wanted to be. Can't we accelerate this thing? What do you need? A half hour or you need an hour?
Half hour be fine. I've already talked to them about.
So we need a half hour. That's all we need.
So the response I got is, I don't know which one of the chairs is on vacation. So that's the reason why it won't be until the week after Thanksgiving. I don't have any other information other than that.
They have
Yeah,
two chairs?
Well, they only have one chair, but Alexa joins because she's another member in a different chair. I don't know.
We don't need the two chairs.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that, Charlie, but the way that they function is as an executive committee.
Oh, I see. So this is the executive committee.
Whatever, it's Lori and the two
Alright.
chairs operate as kind of an executive committee and gatekeepers for these agendas.
All right.
I don't have any other way to control it. It's the way
And
they
who
operate.
controls the calling of a special meeting for a special purpose?
What, for the school committee?
Within the school committee, yeah.
This two chairs.
Yeah.
And I promise
Same
you,
process.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
chairs,
yeah.
they have a regular every 2 weeks type of meeting. And then they have, I guess they could call one if they want, but I don't see this rising to that level. I'll tell you why. They've done various projects over time, and they see these things from sort of this glacial perspective of how long prior projects on their campus have taken to gestate and then eventually develop and then eventually come to fruition. And they're looking at this one and kind of going, this is going to be at least 6 months. This is going to be at least 8 months. Look at how long it took us to do X, or look at how long it took us to do Y. And that, we wanted to build a scoreboard at the tennis courts, and that took us like 8 months to get that all together. They just have a different view of time than we seem to have. That's all. It was different. So, anyway, and maybe it takes 8 months to build up scoreboard at the tennis courts because of the way they do things. I don't know. That's just the way it is.
Now we're well behind.
Yeah, we've got
Oh, we are
behind.
behind, are we?
20 minutes.
Yeah, okay, let's try to
Well,
pick
all
it
right,
up.
landfill.
So the landfill,
Oh,
I'm probably in the wrong thing. Just the historic.
no, not at all.
oh,
Sorry.
no, they're doing nothing with history in here.
No, we're trying to build solar panels all over the community. Yeah.
It might be downstairs. There's another conference room.
Another conference room.
You're welcome to stay here if you want.
You heard quite an interesting thing for someone thinking they were coming to a historic district. All right,
Good night.
very, very good. Good night.
Okay.
So bad. All right.
So
So the landfill we have is town land. It's within the confines of the CMLP territory, and we should be able to do it without any concerns that we have to go through anybody else.
we've
So,
made a decision that we're pursuing a standalone
a standalone
that
implementation.
is separate from any upgrades or upgrade considerations
Right.
of the main facility.
Right. So Dave, you can take it away if you would. That'd be great.
Okay. I got to jump off at 8, so I'll try and be efficient here. So I did meet with Kearsarge, got an update from them. Now I'm going to go through the whole thing so that you guys have all the information. The existing array on the top of the cap landfill could be increased to 2.5 megawatts from 1.7. So that would be a 0.8 megawatt increase. They did include a 5 megawatt battery in their options. And they also sized out the slope, and they believe they could get 1.55 megawatts on the slope. So a significant size on the slope. They are having conversations with the DEP to see, on the steps they'd have to take to move forward with that. I was very clear with them that, we might upgrade the top, we might do the slope, we might not, we might do the battery, we might not, or we might just have you replace the inverter. So they know we haven't made a decision internally on what options we're going with, but they're going to price everything out for us so that we can look at it. One of the things that is, of interest to me anyway, is the increase on the top of the landfill, which I know is not what you guys are necessarily all that interested in, would be a new PPA. So it would be a new 20-year term, and we're 10 years into the first one. So that's interesting to me. I think that long term might be a good option. So that's really it in terms of where we are with Kearsarge. They like I said, they're meeting with the DEP, and that's going to be a big piece for us, whether it can be done or not, and approved. So we'll open up that conversation. Will come back pretty soon. I don't know. I don't deal with the DEP all that often, but the summary is, if everything's done on that site that has been put in front of us, it would be a 4.228 megawatt DC system with a 5 megawatt battery that we're controlling. So that's what's on the table right now.
So we had thought of, and I think we still do, consider the extension, which they're quoting at 1.55 megawatts.
Right.
That's something that we could do more of a DIY implementation on, rather than having to pay whatever they're going to charge us for the energy as a PPA project.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I made it clear to them that we might do one piece of this and not the other. Because I know you guys are interested in potentially, having the capital put up and for it to be operated within the light plant. So they're aware that we may not do that with them, but the option is being put together so we can look at it, and at least we know what kind of prices we're talking about, and that sort of thing. So, pretty exciting stuff coming along.
The other thing I thought you were going to try to do is reach out to SBA for, feasibility numbers and see what they could do, chop, to get us some kind of estimated cost for building out the extension area, so that in the event that we want to develop a warrant article, we would have some kind of number to use as a placeholder. I mean, last time around when we did this for CMS, we had a very big number that we adjusted way down. I don't want to have a closer number rather than look silly. Was there any progress on that front?
I haven't got that piece done yet.
Did you get to hold of them?
Did you get a hold of them? Do they have a?
Yeah, but we haven't got any finalized information yet. So I'll reach out to them again tomorrow, and I have to touch base with them on the middle school stuff anyway. So
I think the idea was to have a low cost approach to sizing the opportunity and beginning to progress it.
Right. Yeah.
Beginning to progress it, given that the Kearsarge numbers might come in a way that isn't really affordable.
Well, it's also going to, the way the Kearsarge numbers are going to come in as, here's what you'll pay for energy. It's not necessarily.
Well, but this Kearsarge thing, we'll have the 1.55 off to the side as a separate.
That's right.
Separate deal, separate inverter, and so forth.
Yep.
So we want to have our own piece on that, right?
Yeah, that was the thinking. I thought that was our thinking.
I think that's still the thinking, right, Dave?
yeah, yep, for sure. I can tell you it's going to be expensive. There's no question about it. So don't be surprised, because That's a pretty good slope. I
Don't
don't
be
know if you,
surprised by what?
I don't be surprised when you see the price. It's gonna be expensive. Just the construction on the slope alone changes the whole game. So, I'm expecting it to be expensive. Maybe I'm wrong, but
The feasibility and the cost per watt of a slope.
Yeah.
Too steep.
What specifically, Dave, is SDA gonna give us? What you asking for?
A proposal to help us figure out costs, right?
yeah.
Just-
The stuff that I outlined, remember?
Yeah, you had a whole.
The
set of
5 or 6
questions.
So
things.
that's just
Yeah.
everything, okay, so that's
Yeah.
full list. I'm just trying to get confirmation that
Yeah.
that's specific.
And then Dave, after you get the numbers from them, is there other light plant costs that you would anticipate for any of this that comes along that you're gonna factor in or add on, like new transformers, other lines, whatever, that is sort of your cost that needs to be known?
Yeah, for sure. If we put, a megawatt and a half there, we're gonna have interconnection costs, and I can tell you the transformer alone to do that is gonna be $100,000. And then you have a line extension, so it's gonna be expensive, and those costs aren't coming down anytime soon because there's a major issue in the transformer market. The prices have quadrupled through the pandemic, and the lead times are anywhere from 1 to 3 years. So those prices are coming down.
Kearsarge is able to upgrade their panels. You have that cost, you have transformer costs or other things if they succeed in doing what they need to do, right?
No, that's all on them. All that equipment's theirs.
Right, that's all.
So the interconnection is
It'll all be paid.
our pole on Walden Street. We don't pay for any of that.
Got it. I was looking for costs that we might have forgotten. That's all I was looking for.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. So this is the main opportunity we really kind of still have left as a chance to craft a warrant article that could ask for a debt issuance to build this out. And we need to know what the scale of that number is. And I don't know how we get there. So you said you called SBA.
I'll get the numbers for you guys.
You
That
think-
was a line item in there, what the cost uplift was.
Yeah.
Build it on
I
the
know.
slope.
I know. And our next meeting is 12/7. Okay, the warrant will be open
Yeah,
and that's our next meeting.
Would it
Um,
make any sense for us to have a warrant article for what we know we want to go ahead with, plus an option for the other part not to exceed a certain amount, which would put pressure, of course, in terms of those negotiations? Is that a possibility, and is it worthwhile?
I don't know how that would be crafted but we can certainly think about it. I mean, Mary, I could talk to you about it.
Well, we have to have the buy-in of the
Yeah.
school committee.
Yeah, you don't want
So you'd really be going deep on
to,
that.
you're still in a more adversarial mode in the school committee. If you're saying, hey, we're gonna put this out. But what you're saying though, Phil, is we have something we want to do and we need this town support to do, which is the landfill.
Right.
Okay? And we have a clause in there that says, TBD for the school, but it's going to be in the warrant. People are going to see it. It's going to look like we're trying to do something at the school, and the school committee hasn't even had us in front of them yet. That's going to look a little.
No, I
weird.
was actually talking about this Kearsarge portion, since we can't negotiate in advance what would be economically attractive.
So the Kearsarge negotiation is between the light plant and Kearsarge, because the way that really works is you negotiate on how much you will pay for the energy you will receive. They'll pick up all the capital costs are on them. And the light plant negotiates. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, you're gonna negotiate for, we'll be willing to buy your energy for this many cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah,
So-
the negotiation includes that. It also includes contract buyouts. There's a whole number of pieces to it. But yeah, that is all negotiated between the solar provider and
Intervention.
And us,
Light
yeah.
plant is always in the process of buying energy. It buys energy from Maine, it buys energy from Vermont.
So we're not talking about possibly buying out their quote interest, taking the whole.
Well, Dave might decide to do that, but we consciously decided to stay out of that
Right.
and to say, and we passed a motion to that effect.
Yeah.
That
That
we
we're
would,
just
that
gonna-
we would
we're
build
just gonna
parallels
follow,
and we would take our best shot at the 1.55 megawatt.
No, what I'm
opportunity.
saying is something different from that. I'm saying,
Okay.
yes, we go ahead on the 1.55. And then we want an option to buy out the existing project at a price not to exceed X.
That's a light plan issue.
That's a light plan
Light
issue.
plan issue.
It's
It's
not,
not a
it's
town
not part of this.
Yes.
So that's-
It's not part of this team. It's not part of them. It's the light plans.
Beyond our scope.
Yes, beyond,
Yeah.
because it's basically a renegotiation of a contract between the business unit, light plant and Kearsarge, and we're kind of out of it, you know?
Now I understand.
Um, okay, so at the next meeting, which is 12/7, we're gonna need to have an estimated number that we can work with if we want it. Any prayer of getting a warrant article. Yeah. So that's sort of a drop dead next
Yeah.
12/7. And
We need to just write draft language, between now and next meeting, just so we have.
probably, I can go find a previous, light plan. I can probably just
Yeah.
take,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
probably just take the one from the CMS
Yeah.
implementation. It's just
Saying, so
just
the
like
language
we
is
need
there, and
money.
then
We need
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
to do something, and it comes from these sources, which is from the light plants, be paid by the ratepayers, or however the language works, but I think we can do that up. Obviously, we had to run it by town council and do all that, but the real thing we need is a number.
Number.
The real thing you also need is the bottom lines on the thing.
I know.
Well, for the warrant article, you need a number that's big enough,
We need,
right? So the last one was deliberately
You need to
huge,
know-
because it had a
You need to
double
know how
value.
much you're gonna make off.
yeah,
Well.
so that's when we get to
warrant
the,
article,
that's when we
we'll
get to the
that.
hearings where we have to actually
Defend it.
defend the thing.
Yeah.
We have to
We'll
be
get
able
there,
to pull
right.
together, reasonable
Yeah.
cash flow and how this is gonna impact ratepayers, and are they gonna pay more for electricity because we decided to do this, and how much more,
Yeah.
or maybe they save in year 15, they start saving money. The same kind of presentation we got
Yeah.
pulled together for CMS.
I gotta jump off, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks, Dave.
That's all good.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
So we are a good 20 behind, so that's not that great.
20's not so bad.
That's not that bad. So now we're talking about the actual charge of the committee, which is the long-term report we're working on. And Gavin couldn't attend tonight, and he's not on here. He's on here, but he didn't
Yeah.
supply his draft outline section. So we're a little behind on that. But I'm gonna start with mine, which is just a piece that we have discussed, which is as we're trying to reach our 20 megawatt goal, we are likely to come to the point where we find we do not have enough land, we do not have enough dual use opportunities like parking lots and roofs within the town to achieve that objective, and that we need to partner with private entities, businesses, hospital, schools, any, Fenn, Middlesex, anywhere we can find a place to put a panel. And how can we count that, and what would it take for us to be allowed to count that? And to that end, I have a Word document somewhere that I can pull up, which is part of the package tonight.
And you are or are not limiting that to town boundaries.
We're limiting that to being within the
Town.
service territory of the light plant. I think is a fair,
Yeah.
I think it's a fair restriction, to be in the service area of the light. Plant. So how's that? Let's see if I can.
Although the town could invest.
No, you
land,
can buy.
They could land and capital, whatever we wanted to do anywhere.
That's why I asked the question.
Now, I think we're
We could do our own Western Mass deal.
Well,
What I did with my version of this, but it was in the
It's in the meeting
it's
package.
in the
meeting packet.
Yep.
But basically, what I did was I laid out a set of parameters that enter into how do we decide what we're even talking about.
Yeah.
And then I tried to combine them in different ways and see, well, if I make this combination, should that count? If I make that combination, should that count? And I'm happy to take comment because it's, let's think for
I read
You want me
it,
to
I thought
share?
you did a really good
I have-
job.
I thought it was
But
good.
no, I have one thing that I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
about, but we should bring it up because it's very specific wording.
What?
You want me to share the document?
I got it. I
Yeah.
got it. I can share it now if you want me to share.
So this is about capacity, not about power, right?
It's about who's qualified. as under our
Qualifies to,
20
to,
But
Fall
you use the word power.
Well,
just
I'm gonna get to the
anticipating.
word in a minute. Right, because you
All right.
did include energy at the bottom.
which is,
Okay, so there's the document. So we have a bunch of terms. So we have the target goal, which is we're trying to get to 20 megawatts. And we have, it can be on different kinds of land. It could be on land that we actually own or a subdivision of ours owns. It could be leased, the town could lease it. And then that
Then-
is town,
town.
Yep.
Yep.
still town. Or it could be privately owned land. The site operator could be the light plant, which is what we're gonna do with CMS. It could be a third-party generator via a PPA, which is what we have at WR Grace and what we have over the landfill today, where we just buy the energy. Or another private entity could just put panels on their property and they could operate it. Like could be the B, you know, I don't know. Who that's it. And usually that would end up being a behind the meter situation if a private entity puts it up, that they'll take it in. And then where's the energy go? Does it flow directly to the light plant for resale? Or does it go to the operator who then turns around and sells it to the light plant, which is a PPA, basically, that's a PPA. Or does it go to a private entity behind the meter who consumes as much as they want, and if there's some excess, they hand it off to the light plant. So that's the energy flows. And then we have renewable energy certificates, which is where those go, or, you know, the light plant get to retire them. The site operator deliver them to the light plant at no cost retirement, or B, the renewable certificates get generally resold, which is what's seriously happening at WR Grace.
Yeah.
Sort of a grandfather situation, I think we're going to have to call that. Capital costs, who's paying for it? Third-party funded PPA or third-party funded lease back or direct. So I think I tried to cover all the things. I think that's all the things. And then I come up with some use cases. And I'm happy to take comments on my use cases. So the case where the light plant is the site operator. If we're operating the site, regardless of where it's, you know, what arrangement, and the energy flow and renewable energy certificates go directly to the light plant, it counts. So if we, and that was something Dave said he's been discussing with Emerson Hospital.
Yep.
We'll come in, we'll put it on your parking lots,
Yep.
we'll generate the electricity, and we'll take it and sell it back to you. And okay, that all counts. I think that's totally counts. Regardless of the land status or the capital. Okay, the next one is where the land is owned by the town. The installation shall be considered part of the target goal as long as the certificates go to the light plant for retirement. So that could be like a PPA, like that could be WR Grace, or it could be the new landfill. If we do a PPA at the landfill, it's our land. As long as we get the energy certificates, we're good. Even if they're selling us the energy and we have to buy it at some exorbitant price, we're getting the certificates. It's on our land. I think that's.
And you're saying the certificates at no cost.
Yeah, they're included in the deal. Let's just call it that.
Okay, all
They're
right, so
included in
that's
the
a
deal.
better way to.
Yeah.
You know,
Bundle
they're
deal.
bundled, it's a bundled deal.
Bundled, I
Yeah.
think we might have.
So, and those are fine because then we don't have cash out of pocket. So if we're doing a PPA, as long as they hand us the certificates, it's part of the bundle.
when you define retired, that means that the control of them turn over
Yep.
to,
Right.
I just said that word, if
It's an
someone
official,
doesn't know what
It's
it
an
is.
official thing that you do.
State word.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so,
Is
Okay.
it to our advantage to at least encourage consolidation so that the amount of capital that need to be raised is as rather than coming up with a lot of little pieces separately financed, we put it all together and get a better price.
well, if we can, you know, that's like an implementation question for the scheduling of how we do this. If we were to say, we've identified 4 sites in the town,
Mhm.
and the solar plan says we're gonna build on those 4 sites. And we decide to put in our schedule, let's do all these 4 as one consolidated bid. You might be able to get a better price.
Aggregate.
You
Yeah.
might be able to get an aggregate.
But I'm thinking we're including some private ones, et cetera, rather than each private one negotiating its own financing.
Yes.
Can we and should we consider as one of the terms that we seek is to have a single financing point?
Not sure I quite understand that.
In
I
a
don't
startup
know.
program in which you're encouraging private activity, but asking those participants to participate in an aggregated purchase and install.
Exactly.
Oh, so we, like the MWEC battery program.
It's very complicated what
Yeah,
you're suggesting.
Yeah.
Because
Is
each
it-
one has their own
Timing.
risks and owns.
Yeah.
We don't have even have the sites I think for now, each site is gonna be sitting on its own bottom, coming with its own terms. And its
Which
own-
will almost inevitably be
and we
more
go-
expensive.
But
Well, no,
manageable.
it won't
You might
necessarily
actually
be more
get done.
expensive because there's each one is a startup and a full install, and they gotta dig the same amount of holes and.
No, the difference is in interest rate. In other words, the larger the volume, the lower the rate.
Complicated.
I think you're looking at much bigger numbers than.
I don't think that's what this is addressing though. I think this is a different topic, so I think we should jump this.
Yeah, this is
This is
actually.
I
we're
was talking
actually-
about financing.
I know.
Yeah, but
we're-
that's not,
That's not the
what
The
this
topic here is whether or
Okay.
not
We can count.
the specific implementation on a private, in a private
This area.
partnership will be
Will
accredited
count.
to our target goal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have that much to do with financing. All right, so PPA operator or private entity operator anywhere within the light plant service territory, if the energy flow and renewable energy certificates are delivered to the light plant for resale and retirement, all energy should be included. Now, we do have one example. The light plant is currently, they have panels with a PPA that they negotiated that sit on top of a
Yeah.
business on Virginia Road.
Yeah.
And that's the example, and I think that should count in the total.
We're good with that.
Yeah, we're good
Yep.
with that. So that's an example of that, where Dave really worked through that, and they wanted to put panels on their building, and he goes, well, let's get a PPA, and then he gets all the energy, and I don't know if he gets the renewable certificates. I don't know I don't know how that's, I don't know whether he can.
Okay,
Yeah, they may have negotiated the way. So then the last one, which is the one that's probably the most questionable, is in any case of a behind the meter site on private land, privately funded and operated over X kilowatts, which
Yeah.
X is TBD.
Yeah.
If excess energy, meaning the net metering,
Yeah.
if the net metering and the renewable energy certificates flow to the light plant at no cost, they'll be included.
see, I don't get this.
So wait a minute,
This
wait a
doesn't make any
minute.
sense to me.
This is where I got.
You threw some new stuff in here.
It's the boat.
That's why we're
Well, I
discussing
never
it.
heard of this.
Let's
I've
take it
never
one
heard this
thing at a time. right?
comment before of giving energy to the town and not getting any dough for it.
Okay,
This is a new thing, right?
all right, so we can take it up.
Why
I'm
don't
happy
we,
to-
I mean,
Can I get just a
Let's just, yeah,
clarification?
get a
of
clarification
the
so we can
wording?
understand it.
Because I get the excess means we're talking net metering, so it's
Net metering.
coming back, right? So I get that the renewal, the rack's coming back to the light plant at no cost, that's good. But then you say for both energy and retirement of the rack. Are you saying that with net metering, we're not reimbursing them? for
Yes.
power?
Yes, you're not,
Yeah.
you're not reimbursing.
Yeah, if they,
actually, it
if
might,
they,
Does it have to be
it
both?
might work. It might work.
well,
I mean, I get. the
I'm
concern.
happy. This is
Yeah.
why this is a
Well,
draft.
yeah.
It's
It could,
just-
it could work.
Right.
So I'm happy to take that out.
But do we
No,
have, yeah,
I just don't know if it's a requirement.
this is in case, this would,
Yeah, yeah.
this would work in cases where it was pretty close one way or the other. And they just wanted to, the entity simply wanted a backstop for their excess energy. They didn't think they were gonna have any to begin with.
Right.
But if they had some, they wouldn't expect to be reimbursed for it.
Right.
It's just using it as a battery.
Well,
So therefore it works.
It'll never happen, but.
no,
yeah.
well, yeah, because it's not gonna be reliable. It's gonna be hard to say you got a megawatt all the time.
But
Do I get it
could-
1 month,
could
but not
work.
another?
This could work, that could,
Yeah,
that
right.
paragraph could work.
The
So-
difference between that and the battery, I think, is the battery, you can call for it later on. Whereas if you're just passing energy,
So
you get nothing.
You had quibbles. I see you cross out.
You know, it was more, I was just thinking, both either not getting it's the energy coming back for no cost. And it was more just, I get it. If someone would agree with, great, sure, it should absolutely, it just would it ever.
Would we agree to just retire the Rex be good enough?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Good
no,
enough.
yeah.
Because they don't value the Rex particularly.
Well,
the
you get
Rex are
money
all
for your Rex, you're getting a check every
Yeah.
so
Right.
often. So
But we're
what
asking them
if
to-
you were to just say that money is effectively a donation to the town's light plant, then yours could count maybe.
Well, it would
Okay.
work. It would
Yeah,
work
yeah.
because, but only in the cases where the entity didn't think they were gonna have much excess.
Oh, well,
Might be.
Because we're not gonna invest in a lot of capacity to create excess
Right.
to give away.
right, I'm happy to,
It's okay.
I put that in there, but I'm happy to take out the energy piece of the give back. If they just gave us the Rex, would that be enough to get that implementation to count towards our target?
Well, I think it is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would take
I
it out.
think so
I
too.
think it is. I
You think it's enough?
I
You
still-
think it's enough?
The Rex enough for.
The Rex are enough?
Rex are enough.
Okay, I'm good. We'll
Right.
take that out. So they don't have to give us any energy. We'll net meter them. If energy flows out,
Yeah.
the light plant net metering will be fine. But if they give us the Rex.
Yes, it's an unnecessary thing to put in. there.
Okay, so X kilowatts, how big an implementation do these need to be? Can a
Sure.
homeowner help us?
No,
No,
it's gotta be a
it's
business. I think.
commercial.
I think
Oh,
you gotta
well.
find a certain size to say that it's gonna be a reliable.
I think for now,
feedback
just
to it.
call it commercial and don't try, I don't think we need to try to get into an amount right now. It's gonna have to percolate a little bit.
Okay, commercial.
Yeah.
All right.
But your purpose in putting the amount was just to find a threshold.
Yeah, that's
to be
right. So I
considered.
was trying to say, like,
Right.
what's the threshold?
Yeah.
I don't know that we want to have every homeowner's
Well,
There are some-
rooftop be part of our.
no, but I mean, logically, okay, what would a threshold be?
There are some enormously large residential.
But
No,
you're,
no, but what I'm saying is, but we're talking,
Yeah.
we want
On
20
average, yeah.
megs, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, how about if it was 3% or 5% of what our target is? Is that a logical threshold where we say, okay, well, you know what, that's about as big as, the drainage basin, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Yeah, I
hard
would-
one to pick. That's
I
all.
wouldn't put a threshold.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll call that, we'll just change that to commercial.
Yeah.
And we'll take out the excess energy flow.
Right.
We'll just take that out completely, because all you need to do is
Just get
donate,
the Rex.
you're
Yeah,
basically
okay.
donating your Rex. You're
Yeah.
donating your Rex, we're good.
We get
Yeah.
50 people to give
That's
it
it.
a bunch
Good.
of Rex, that's great, we'll count them all.
Okay,
Leave it
All
at that. Yeah.
So that, the paragraph above that about the PPA.
Yeah.
Is that only applicable? It says if the energy flow and renewable energy certificates are delivered,
yeah.
is there any
That's gonna be-
situation where it could be one or the other, but not both?
A PPA site operator anywhere within the service territory. So you're a PPA, you're sitting on a commercial building. This is the one over on Virginia Road.
Yeah.
And you are behind the meter selling energy directly to the business. I don't know that we want to qualify. I don't want to take that in.
No, I think this is, I think this said correctly. The other way to look at this is when we buy power from outside under some sort of PPA.
Right.
We do it with what is called bundled RECs.
Right.
So we buy the power and we buy the RECs.
Yeah.
And then we retire the RECs, therefore we don't have to go. We don't have to go purchase them.
That's
Completely green.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's good.
I mean, our goal is generate electricity.
Yeah.
Have it serve the town
And
in any entity we can,
right.
Yeah.
without it being dirty
Dirty
power.
power.
Yeah.
Dirty
And
power.
The
CML
generator in my
Sell the
garage
Rex,
is
it
not
becomes
good enough?
dirty, that's all, yeah.
Okay, all right,
CML won't
all
do
good.
PPA with
all right,
Rex.
so that,
Yeah.
so there we go.
That's
good.
So the
That's the
next
red language,
piece of the agenda. I'm gonna get that off the screen. and read that. Next piece of the agenda then is, was Charlie and Gavin didn't file, but Charlie did. So let's put Charlie's on the screen if I can find that. There we go.
While you're waiting for that to come up, what I did was I created a sort of a skeletal outline. And then I basically filled in what I meant by the outline topic. what the intent was of the topic, to provide guidance about, you know, what we're really doing with each section of the report. So, it might appear a little controversial, but the point is I put these things in there because I think we need to get through them in order to be able to write this report.
Absolutely.
So,
So the
I've
first
got two
section,
goals.
just-
You want me to?
yeah, to just interrupt, the first section was the chunk that Gavin was gonna do, and he didn't file, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, we divided it up the last minute in two
Okay, so
sections.
what's the first site assessment? Oh, okay. So
That's
I'm-
So,
the information.
yeah,
we
the
gathered
second
and
section,
wrote through.
Like, where are we gonna put them?
Right. That's a chart.
Site
the second
priorities.
section kind of was the rest.
Oh.
So what I started out with was goals. Okay, we've got to, you know, I think that's pretty clear. You know, add 11 megawatts, do it in a way that is consistent with town financial, you know, goals. And in this case, you know, to not, you know, add any debt. It pays for itself. Well, you would add debt, but it would pay for itself over the range of the projects. And then I had a section on definitions. You can see that. Now, these definitions ought to be written, or will be written, should be written in a way that reflects what it means here when we talk about these things. So we've been
Context.
using the word bus bar. Well, okay, what are we talking about in Concord when we talk about a bus bar? What's our substation? What's a circuit? People talk about feeder lines. Are feeder lines different than circuits?
Who do you anticipate would read it?
So the audience for this is the select board and the light board primarily, but anybody else who's interested ought to be able to understand it. So I think what this ought to do is this ought to basically bring this right down to the level of anybody
The public
who,
Yeah.
wants to understand the topic.
but specifically, this is about direction, policy, and that sort of thing.
I have a reason for asking the question. Some of these, as a percentage of the project, are tiny, 1% or less.
What?
Mhm.
What is?
Some of these items, for instance,
Well, all these items go into the environment of
Yeah, which,
Understanding
doing
the
what we're doing.
challenges, yeah.
You know, fact,
what, the reason I'm asking the question is one that is often done is you take the smallest ones and you put them in as a group, as a percentage of the total, reducing the number of items, reducing the number of things that people have to ask questions about. Is there such an opportunity?
Let me frame that a little differently then, Phil. Okay. We're trying to add somewhere around 11 megawatts of power to the grid. Okay. The grid can only accept 2.5 more. That's all it can accept. So the grid needs to we need to find ways to add an additional 8.5
Right.
to get where we want to go, and the grid can't take it. So this whole section deals with a lot of very technical things, but we're trying to get to a fundamental reorientation of how the grid functions so that it will accept the additional energy. Okay. Now we can think about that as a site specific thing. We're putting up a megawatt here, and how does that megawatt manage itself so that it doesn't hurt the grid? But the fact of the matter is the grid can't take the extra megawatt.
but can we say this in a slightly different way?
Yeah. So that's
These
why we
these
need to get into this.
definitions, these
So it's a big
definitions
thing.
are simply the things that you need to know a little bit about in order to read the document.
Yeah.
So if you read the document without reading the definitions, you might say, well,
I don't
I'm
understand.
not sure I
What does
understand
this
that
mean?
term. Let me go back and look that up.
Yeah.
So it's just a handy thing that I think we should
Yeah.
go move on
Move on.
because you'll
Yeah.
understand what we're doing
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Okay.
And then you describe the system overall.
Yeah, the system needs to be described.
Oh, clearly.
And you know, its entities, the relationship between them, we need a basic line drawing, a schematic. We don't even know how the transformers are set up. We don't know the relationship between transformers and circuits. We don't know if there's any failover. We don't know anything, to be quite frank. And that's something we need to solve. And stuff isn't astrophysics.
No, it's not.
No,
It's straightforward, but we need an explanation of it.
Right.
So then we need a set of metrics. We need to discuss, we need to recommend a set of metrics to the town or to the light plant, to the select board, and so forth, Because nobody understands, well, what are we really trying to do here besides 11 megawatts of solar? Well, we want to do that. If you look at the second bullet there, the key metric really is, at the end of the day, it's the relationship between the demand for electricity on our system and the amount of solar generation at any given time. This is all we're doing. All we're doing with this discussion of infrastructure is we're saying that we need to figure out a way to maintain a constant relationship between demand and solar generation. And to do that, we need to do all this stuff. And the stuff is, well, we'll get to that in a second, but that's what that metric is. Should the difference between demand and solar generation at the peak of solar generation, should it be 1 megawatt of load? Should it be a half a megawatt of load? I don't know, but we need to know. And this needs to be in this report, because what
Because it's a
Dave comes
limit.
back to, is, oh, we run into trouble a bunch of times a year, and I need to send Harold out to the transformer, and he has to go into the switch room, and he has to be ready to toggle things or do something. We don't know what that is. Do we?
No.
We don't know what that is,
Not
but
know what that is.
it's been conveyed to us that it's a problem. Well, let's solve that problem. So
The question I'm asking is a slightly different one. If you take some of the smaller items on here and you put them under the category called of other accessories, and you can list them, and you put in an aggregate percentage, does that simplify? Because
do you think this is too complicated?
There's no way to
Because I think this is
simplify it.
extremely
This is
simple.
extremely simple.
There's nothing here that is
Right.
brain defined.
I mean,
Why don't we go through it, and we'll
Yeah.
come back to the
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
So, so the first metric is how much are we going to generate that's more than what we generate today. The second metric is the relationship between the two.
Right.
That's all we're doing.
because we need to keep the
So,
system balanced.
and
Stay balanced.
and then-
It has to stay balanced.
And then what do we need to do in order to do that? Well, some very simple things. Well, we need system monitoring of some sort, because we need to know kind of what's going on in the environment.
Right. And when we need to,
where is our generation on bus bar A at any given point during the year, especially during peak hours, during peak generation during solar peak? Be nice to know, rather than having smoke coming out of some part of the system and having Harold have to get in his car and run out to the. I'm
we
making a
need
joke,
active
making a bit of a
monitoring of
joke
the
here, but
system so that we can
Yeah,
act
that's right.
appropriately
That's right.
and
Now,
make decisions that will maintain the stability of the
that's
system.
right. So SCADA systems do this.
Right.
There's off-the-shelf software and, device collectors,
Sensors,
intelligent
controls.
endpoints, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next thing here. So then we get into, assuming we agree that we need monitoring, or have a recommendation for monitoring, we need to understand what our thoughts as a committee are on the various tools and strategies. So there's only 3 things that we can do, or some combination of 3 things that we can do to maintain that consistent relationship and keep us out of the woods with respect to too much demand, or with
Too much
respect to too much
supply,
generation.
What levers can you
Too
pull
much generation.
to keep yourself stable?
Right, to keep the system stable. So those things are what Dave calls the metering domain is one of them. Metering domain is the gateway where we flush power out of the system onto Eversource. Eversource does something with it. Something happens.
And it
And that
gives us-
costs a lot. There's a lot of capital money associated with
That's
this.
reverse flow to
It
work.
might be a couple million.
And it's purely defensive.
Might be a
It's
couple million to
basically a
do that.
defensive strategy that
It's-
just allows you, when you have too much solar production, to push the extra energy back onto the wider.
You have to remember that they're
So-
doing it for risk mitigation purposes.
Right.
So the
It's
second,
literally
It's gonna
defensive.
happen,
Yeah,
we just,
yeah.
yeah.
the
But it
second-
also gives us 5 megawatts. which
Right, but
increases our
it still doesn't give us a
capacity.
lever.
Well,
Doesn't give
No,
us a
I know,
lever.
but someplace in our report.
Right, but it's one of the levers.
It's a
Right?
game.
We'll talk about the advantages of curtailment. Yeah,
Right.
it gives us something.
Yeah.
So the second item is curtailment, which enables us to, by solar site, by solar asset, to basically say, well, let's shut off the solar for this period of peak. And we just won't take that power, and therefore we won't have a peak generation problem. Of course,
Trim the supply.
you're not getting any benefit out of those.
Yeah, it's
those-
generating at its max capacity at that moment, and you're saying, I can't use it, I don't.
Right, you're not getting any benefit out of that.
Shut off the solar production.
Yeah.
Or you,
Production.
And again, risk mitigation.
at the production end.
At the
Yeah,
production, okay.
So that strategy would require the connectivity, between some sort of headquarters control domain.
Yeah.
Whether that's CMLP or ENE or whatever,
Right.
and this environment.
Right.
Because you'd have to say, well, we've reached this level of generation, and we can see we're having problems here. Punch this, to basically curtail site one. Now, you
It's
can
like
do that.
multiple generators where you're shutting off certain generators.
You're shutting off a spindle or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah,
The third strategy is storage. And we're gonna need Dave involved in this discussion, because storage is kind of a win-win. Right? Storage costs money, but storage makes money. Storage enables you to charge the battery at or near peak.
and do we know
And then
that,
you wait, hold on a second. And then you dispatch that power at another time, which is off peak. And the objective is to dispatch that power in a way that enables you to make a contribution to Massachusetts clean peak.
Right.
So the clean peak is the 12 monthly peaks and the annual peak. And if we can do that, then we make money.
We actually make money.
We make money. So it makes it profitable. So this is storage overall is not only profitable in and of itself, but it also solves the peak problem without requiring an investment in a metering domain.
but
Well,
when you say,
What, Wendy?
I just,
You're
I
grumbling
think
over there.
you're still gonna need both.
I think you need both. Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
not talking about solutions, we're talking about what we need to cover as
Well,
our
but
mitigation.
We don't know whether we need both yet.
If there's 2 or 3
We don't
levers,
know that.
they need to be
That's what I'm
sized, they
saying,
need to be said, okay, how much of the time are you at peak?
Yeah.
And how much shaving do you need to do? And if we go to 11 more, megawatts, how much of that will exceed what we can, and then you gotta shave that whole piece off with some of these levers.
Right.
Or combination of, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
when you
So-
say you make money with the battery,
Well, what you're doing is you're saving money on our bill.
You're
On
reducing
our
our-
I say we
our
have
highest
bills.
Reducing our peak load.
We are billed for capacity and for
Peak.
transmission.
Yeah.
And if we dispatch our battery storage during those peaks, during those 12 peaks, or during the annual peak, we save
Lower our rate.
hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of dollars. And that just comes off the bills.
no, this I understand. The question I'm raising is a different one, namely, there's some battery size for any given condition where if you buy too big a battery, you're gonna lose money because the financing doesn't look good. So
I don't know
there's
that-
an optimum.
I don't know that at this point in the development of this outline, we're talking about the detailed level of sizing of a battery. We're just talking about
Concept.
the concept.
Okay, because there's some level at which you make money and some level at which you don't.
I think what we're trying to do here is we're trying to say, these are the discussions that we need to have as a team. And these are the things that are going to need to be included in the report.
Yeah.
Whether, we can all have our opinions, but at the end of the day, we need to come up with what we think we ought to be doing. And is it both of them? Is it one of them? Is it all 3 of them? What do we need to do? And what are the financials? What are the financials? Well, let's go on so we can finish, wrap this up.
We're out.
Yeah.
we're out of time.
Yeah.
Did pretty good on my time though, didn't I?
You did fun.
So
Yeah.
let's keep going, down the, what's that one saying?
The last one was, you were talking about the third option, which is.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah,
sure,
right,
yeah. So then we go down to
Right.
site specifications is the next category of stuff that we need to call out. Site specifications should be, just some level of design level stuff relative to these sites.
It also needs to pick up everything like don't cut down the trees. And so on.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
And
No,
yeah, stuff like that.
Total site selections.
Sure, yeah, that's all.
pretty
Yeah,
good
yeah.
approach.
And then we should discuss the financial models.
Yeah.
And then we need financials for each site. And then we need to roll them up across all the sites that we are trying to implement.
Well, financials by site would probably get rolled into the section A that Gavin was.
I was
Gavin's
given,
doing
I
already,
wrote all
yeah.
that stuff.
No, I don't think so. No, Gavin's just gonna identify the sites.
Right, but there's a
No,
characteristic
we're
of
gonna
that
get
site that
The
is
site,
the,
you're
how
gonna
many
end up with a
panels you
site
put on it.
description,
what
you're gonna
it-
end up
Well,
with a site,
I
a site
maybe.
potential, you're
Yeah.
gonna end up
Yeah.
with
Well,
site
it's agreed, we need
financials.
this content. for
Yeah,
the site,
yeah.
right?
I'm just thinking that's the place to keep all that information,
I
so you
agree,
have
I agree.
you have your deck of cards there, you can choose
Yeah.
which one to use.
Use this site, and then there's a full description. The
Mhm.
site is this big, it has this much potential, it's gonna cost
Yeah.
this much, the financials look like this.
So I had all the financials kind of together because you have financials for related infrastructure as well. So you're gonna roll all this up and this is what we're talking
Yes,
about for
the
money.
the related infrastructure is how do we have that, we'll call it the headquarters view of, we need to pull this lever, as Steve was saying, we need to pull on that lever, shut off this solar array on that site because it needs to be shut off, or open the door to the metering domain, let it all slow out, whatever.
Yeah,
Some of
and-
this stuff. I
So
think-
some of that is basically core infrastructure that's segregated. from
Yeah, the other
site
thing
individual
with
site.
these is they're expandable. So as you start to add more megs, you're gonna add more batteries. You might have a different view about your peak now, and so curtailing might be a little bit better or something else. There's a lot of variables over time.
The last section is just the schedule and those are, I think that's classic feasibility design. These are dates for each.
Yep.
Approval, bids.
Yeah.
It's something we don't do when we put plans together generally. Right, Wendy?
But a statement about implementation and the complexity and timeline related to.
Yeah.
Well,
we have
this
to
would be a Gantt chart for each of these.
Yeah.
Right, and they're gonna be gated by these strategies that we're
Right.
talking about, right? So, I mean, I feel like there's some kind of graphic that like an audience needs to understand. We have a limitation here, we're gonna have this.
There needs to be a small little
Mitigation
paragraph that
and-
says our demand in town is gonna continue to fluctuate. So these strategies need to be variable to address the
Demand.
changing environment in which we're
Or
working.
demand forecast. We're gonna-
Well, we can do
No,
the
but
We're in the
first,
same
I mean,
genes.
but I think it's one big open thing, because all this mitigation is because we're at a critical threshold, but
Right.
you know what? If EV charging really goes and everything else, like our demand is gonna go up and then some of this is gonna be back. Or the risk limits, it will all, I mean, predicting that
But
it's not
what
our
that-
job. we
What
can
that,
make it,
yeah.
well, we
What
can
that
do the
also-
first 2 or 2.5 megawatts without adding any infrastructure.
but Dave's gonna do it. Like,
Well, that's what
we have
Dave
a life
said.
plan.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know, but then we're sort of that, we need metering, right? We need all these other things. that we need
Come back to
know.
the stick to our
Alright.
goal.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
this document represents how we can get to a goal,
Components. Yeah.
all we've learned in the last
Right.
3
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
And this is how it's gonna be put
That's right.
forward,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
more informed than it was. And it's
So,
Yeah, no, I think.
all
it
right,
is.
so next steps
Brings everything
for
together.
the next 2 weeks, we need a next steps plan for how to flesh out some of this. Would anyone like to peel off any pieces of this and try to be a little more expansive?
I wouldn't try to start writing this stuff now.
Not yet.
I think we should get our
No,
plan
no.
together, because I think you're right.
So I think we need to get more comfortable.
So we're gonna meet in 2
Continue to
weeks.
massage the outline. The outline will probably mature.
We're gonna meet in
Yeah.
2 weeks. Wendy's gonna keep working on looking at these financials and trying to figure out, like,
How we
okay,
can
we
do all
threw
this
some,
stuff.
we threw some stuff at the wall and it looks more expensive than
Yeah.
it
We're
ought to
gonna,
look.
we're gonna do the,
Gavin's gonna work
we're
on
gonna
this
work on the
thing,
model thing, right?
the model thing.
No.
You said we're gonna get the.
Yeah. When you're
talk
gonna
about
work
the
on the
model.
model.
Here that we have a further conversation. walking through that.
Oh, yeah, the three of us can have a,
We can resolve
we
all
can-
that model
We can
stuff.
resolve that.
Wait a
We'll
minute,
do
open
that.
meeting, three
But-
people, wait a
but we
minute.
I know, you know what, I know. We have a full meeting, you know.
It's a work
It's
stream.
not, it's,
No.
it's not a, it's,
Yeah, you have to
it's
call
not
the
a
meeting.
quorum.
Not a
Three is
quorum,
not a
it's-
quorum.
Three is not a quorum, and it's a work stream. It's not nothing more than that, and it's
Careful,
what.
we-
it's
We just,
what
we're
Paul
working
Bohm
to
is doing.
understand something, that's all.
It's what Paul Bohm is doing. We're just getting the facts together. We're
Yeah.
creating things for the committee.
Doing my best here, to try to.
We're just trying to keep it from falling.
We're not deliberating.
Yeah, exactly.
You're-
We're not deliberating, I think
We're just
exploring something.
right.
Fact finding.
It's
Fact finding,
yeah.
organizing.
Fine.
Planning.
But when we arrive at the next meeting, how will we have made much progress? I've asked Dave to be a little more aggressive in trying to figure out, what we're doing with the schools. I can communicate back with Tracy and say, look, we need to do better than this, but if she's gonna insist that Alexa's in the meeting, we're sort of close, because Alexa's taking a week off. I know what it is, what it is.
There's only 1 week till Thanksgiving.
It's next.
the next week,
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's next
Yeah,
week.
next
Oh,
week. Yeah.
so I got my turkey.
I
yeah,
was gonna say.
Hey,
Yeah, my part's the cleaning.
all right. I think we've kind of gotten through everything. I'm gonna take down the share. Look at my. Look at.
Do we need to start crafting that? We already did.
I'll take it, we had nobody on the call.
I'll do some work to look at the CMS warrant article and, but that's, but we're gonna meet on 12/7. I might as well have like a sample. This is the CMS warrant article and plug a number. And
Yeah.
Dave's gonna bring us a number, we hope.
Yeah.
And
we may not want to do the landfill. We may not want to do it.
Well, we can
Because
also.
the
pull
numbers are
article.
terrible.
if the numbers are terrible, well, then we'll just have to back off. and
All
regroup.
you've lost
Yeah,
is,
you're right.
is a paragraph for the warrant as a draft. You're gonna use it later.
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
else.
exactly.
That's all we can,
Nothing
do.
lost.
That's all we can do. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
And we can pull the whole article if we don't like it.
That's
We
true.
just say it's not gonna be moved.
Yeah.
But right now, that's our,
Dave
There's no-
might have his own article for that.
well,
Well, we, no,
Are you taking
well,
public comment?
yeah, we
Yeah,
will
I
take
was
public comment.
we
We don't have any
we
new
don't
business.
have a battery for that.
We don't have any
site,
new
though.
business.
No, well,
I
yeah.
don't
I
think.
think we should. I think we should have a battery in the
Okay.
landfill site.
I think I was just trying to organize. our
Organize
thoughts
our
for the
meeting
next
here.
meeting and who needs to do what. Steve, you've been coasting here a little bit, but I'm happy to give.
Well, I was actually going to say that I could probably work on some of the work on this a little bit of how to like
Fine.
bring some more definition
Fine.
or just
This
because,
being what?
no,
The thing you.
take some of the pieces you have and just try to
Oh, the site
massage
search.
it a little bit so it tells
Sure.
a story that helps explain why it's all in there,
Thank
why
you.
it's whatever.
Great.
You could also write out the definitions.
I can do that too.
And if you can write a definition of bus bar, we'll all be happy.
That's when you take the dishes and you put it on the bar. I
We
want a
want
bus
a-
boy.
we want a picture. We want to see all the components of the
Oh,
substation.
animals. Okay, here we go.
I have a
Alright.
simple definition.
Right,
It's what the underside of the bus looks like.
There's a bus bar. All right.
right.
I am gonna open it up to public comment. I don't.
Is there public?
Yes, there is.
There is, but there's no
There is
public
here.
on
No,
there.
there's one.
I have two
Oh, that's
things I'd
Wendy.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first is that if you want to start putting a little bit of pressure on the schools, it might be a good idea to put an article in the bridge.
I've thought about that, Mary. I can do that.
And I would start it with reminding the community that this is going to town meeting twice and
Right.
it passed unanimously and that you've got a community you're dedicated. That's,
Right.
so yeah, you might want to think about that.
What I really thought, we're looking at the high school as a line in there and then.
Just let
It's
it,
in there.
just let it hang.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, I
Yeah,
was saying,
right.
Put
It's
it
a
in
good
there.
way
Okay,
to
all right.
elicit find an organization.
But the committee
Well,
needs
you
to
got
update the
Cadmus
public.
looked at it, you got so-and-so looked at it, you got da.
I could do that.
Okay.
Okay, that's my first.
Right.
And the other thing is that, I've been the liaison to the light board now for over a year. And what I've noticed is that they're focused a lot on very tactical things. I mean, their charge is to separate, and you know, this, they're very tactical. So at the end of the last meeting, I asked them if they're giving any thought to improvements to the distribution system to manage the supplies for the solar. And Dave said, it's in the capital plan, and everybody just like, okay.
They said okay because they don't
Mary,
understand it.
comment, they need to talk about the strategy. They
Yes,
have it on the
so
website and.
I guess my suggestion is that in your report, you might want to address the organizational development issues for lack of a better word. In how to get some of these things implemented. So you're gonna get the town manager on board. The select board really doesn't have.
Has to be, the town manager.
And then maybe you need to talk about maybe some staffing that you need to get into the organizational development changes to make these things happen. Otherwise, it's just a report.
Are we gonna do it just like we did the CMS?
You know, how did you do it?
We did it.
How did you do that then?
We did a complete bottom-up analysis with, myself, with Matt Root and with Dave. It took 6 or 8 months.
You had the momentum of the CMS behind you though, right?
Right,
No,
yeah,
no, we did not.
They didn't
No,
do
they
anything
couldn't
till we did
stand
the
us.
project.
They told us, no, you don't have any access to the CMS team or the architects or to any of it. You're on your own.
It shouldn't be that hard.
Which shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be that hard to get installation things done. I mean, it shouldn't. be
Well,
that
that's
every
what I'm
time-
saying.
every
I
time
don't
you've
think
got-
it's a big deal. I think the problem is finding them.
Yeah.
And getting the various parties together to agree that, you know, we should do this.
Okay,
That's what I think. I think this is not all that complicated. Well,
Yeah.
what's
I think we're-
complicated
I
is
think
just getting the.
Two different
movement
topics.
together.
Topics, yeah.
I think we're talking
Yeah.
past each other right now, because what I'm saying more is, you've got some great work here, and just from the skeleton of this report, it's a lot, and you're hitting on the barriers, right?
Yeah.
Who's gonna make the difference?
Right.
Right.
Who's gonna do this? And I think you might wanna think about addressing that head on.
Well, aren't we gonna do it?
No, I think this report has to mandate that the town, the town manager makes sure the CML implement it. That's what we have to do. We're
Yes.
not doing
Right.
it. We
That's
have
good
to,
enough.
we have to.
That's
tell
good.
the
Or
town
in the
that
alternative, the task force morphs into an implementation, you know.
I
a
think
we
need an
truly-
implementation team to
There's an
see-
implementation team, and it just keeps
You're not
riding
deciding,
herd
but
on it,
decide.
Yeah.
you know,
But-
You decide. I'm just
right
saying.
now-
There ain't nobody else that are gonna dish this off to it. It certainly isn't the light board.
well, right now, the charge is just,
It could be.
Maybe they did get extra staffing this year, by the way. Yeah. some
Oh, let's
staff
add
done.
staff.
No, I know,
All right.
I know.
I think it's
Yeah.
time for us to have a different kind of motion.
Was there anybody else
Is there
online?
anybody else?
Anybody signed in?
No, it's Eric and Wendy are the only two signed in, and me.
All right.
So,
man.
I have a motion that we adjourn.
So I need a motion.
I did.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's a wrap. You can close it to recording. All good.